Oh, that's annoying. All right, we're good?
Yeah.
All right, welcome to Real Talk, the podcast. I'm Jacob Patterson. Today, we are releasing an episode that we recorded. It was one of the first ones we did with another good friend of ours, Sinzi Velicescu. We tried a million times in the podcast. I hope I just got it right. This is episode, what are we on, 6, do you know?
Yeah.
6?
Episode 6.
Counting 0?
Yep.
So that would be 7 if you counted 0. So we're starting to get our bearings a little bit. I'm sitting in our podcast studio with a wall of Lagunitas beer, a bunch of art from our last show, Trap House, and we are ready to move on to a bunch more cool shit throughout December and January. We're coming up on Night on Broadway. We have an event with Pornhub that we'll be announcing very soon. We've already kind of announced it, but we'll have more details coming out soon. That happens on December 9th. We have our annual breakdancing party with Cypher Addicts, which is always one of the most turnt parties that we throw. And this weekend, we have one of our most highly attended events that we're doing, that one as well for the third year in a row. It's called Comic Arts LA. It'll happen on Saturday and Sunday. You can go to comicartsla.com and check it out. I always get Christmas presents there. It's a good way to support local and non-local artists, but all independent comic artists. I have 4 little sisters, and I buy them presents every year at this thing. So I highly suggest you come to it. It's one of our coolest independent events. Anyway, this episode, there is a lot of good content. Sinzi is a photographer who's pretty well known. She goes by Casual Time Travel on Instagram, but she also works for a company called Standard Vision, which curates video content and produces technology for some of the biggest video artists in the world and some of the coolest billboards in the world. And she talks a lot about that, like video screens of various kinds. We've worked with them a few times. We work with them on Break Bread. One of the coolest things about Sinzi, I'd say, is that she has this day job that is challenging and fulfilling, but adds to her personal practice instead of taking away from it, which I think is something a lot of artists struggle with. So she talks a lot about that. She also gives us her personal take on photographing Los Angeles, which is very important to her work. The importance of exploring new places within it, the city's sprawl, the constant change, and outsiders' perspectives on our city. There is a lot of conversation on process and the importance of solitude to an artist. She likes to go shoot on her own a lot of the times and won't let even photographer friends roll with her a lot of the time because it's very important to her process to be alone. And she talks about transitioning one opportunity into a variety of other opportunities, which is very important for an artist who's going to make it in this city and anywhere, really. And then amongst many other topics, one of the coolest things she talks about is brand deals and how brands can continue to get creative in hiring artists to do cool stuff. She talks about some pretty cool brand deals that she's done herself too. So I suggest you, if you don't know her work, pull up her Instagram right now, scroll through a few images while this episode starts, and enjoy this podcast, episode 6.5 with Sinzi Velicescu. I'm leaving it at that.
Okay, hey, what's up? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Patrick. We're with Think Tank Gallery. Next to me is Jacob Patterson. Say hi, Jacob.
What's up?
That's nice. With us, we have Sinzi Velicescu. She is a photographer, an amazing one at that. She also does work with Standard Vision, and you can also catch music videos that she has directed. Sinzi, can you give me a quick, brief elevator pitch as to how would you describe your work and what you've been doing for the past 5 years?
So I am primarily a fine art photographer. I do a lot of architecture photography around Los Angeles and Southern California area. I also work for Standard Vision, which is an architecturally integrated media facade company. I create and produce live action content for this company. And to break it down, basically, we are a company that designs, builds, and executes large-scale media facades on buildings all around the world. And there's a content department, and I'm in charge of creating and producing the live-action content for our screens.
And if you're in LA, you've definitely seen a standard vision screen. If you've driven by the Staples Center or LA Live, there is a billboard on the Marriott, a very large LED one that's playing everything from movie trailers to help them pay the bills, I'm sure, to what they're really passionate about, which is, some more arts, culture focused content that really makes your commute a little more exciting. Can you tell us about some large scale, probably like the largest scale projects that Standard Vision is doing?
There's a few of them, but they're different. They're different sizes for different reasons. So I guess one of the biggest ones we've done was this. It's called City of Dreams in Macau, China. And it is 3 buildings that are connected by one video feed, and it's all covered in ambient lights. And when you step really far away from it, you can see an entire picture playing across all 3 buildings. And then when you get really close to it, it's just the ambient light that lights the building itself.
Who comes up with these ideas, by the way?
We do.
Right, but I mean, do you guys just sit in a room, like a control room, and just like need to throw shit on the wall and see what sticks? Or
we do have different departments in our company. So we have architects, lighting designers, content creators, and I think it's a collaborative effort because a lot of times content department comes up with the mock-ups. So like, okay, this is the concept of the types of images that will be on there, and then we talk to the lighting designers and the architects and like, okay, will this work? And then we have technicians that understand how that feed would happen, because there's all this, technology that is involved in doing something like that. So there's a lot of people that need to be consulted, and it is a collaborative effort to put these things together.
And what's your role in that process?
I produce and create live action content. For the longest time, I've been working there for 4 years, and we had been creating in-house content ourselves, anything from filming stuff underwater, people dancing, abstract stuff, animation. But lately we've been pushing to create more culture channels out of our screens. So we want to bring in outside artists, outside galleries, big up-and-coming directors, emerging artists, and whatnot to participate. And we just want to build an artistic community and have a sort of outlet for this art to exist on these screens.
Think Tanks had a couple shout-outs on there.
Yeah, they have.
That's right. Can you name some other notable artists who have shown on the screens?
We have worked with a video artist named Pascal Sisto. I think I'm butchering your name. Pascal is a great video artist. And then we have some other animators, Robert Seidel, Casey Reyes, Andreas Fischer. These are some of our contract artists, and we recently started this program called SB Presents, and that is basically a program that invites specific directors to to make commissioned artwork that we produce in-house alongside them. And it's been pretty great so far. We had Will Galperin, who is a art director at Apple's ad agency, TBWA Media Arts Lab. Yeah, he's great.
We'll put links to all this stuff.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's great. He also just did a really awesome short film that just came out, and then Dan Chen, who's an old friend of mine from college, and he actually got a Vimeo staff pick for the SV Presents piece that he did on our screen. Our latest artist that we're going to be working with this month is Elliot Lee Hazel. He's one of my favorite photographers of all time, and I'm very excited to be working with him. He's this crazy fashion art photographer. He's worked with Tom York and like all these other big...
He's going to move into video from stills?
He did a series for Beck that was like a series of music videos for each of his songs on one of his latest albums. And he's been doing a lot of video stuff lately. So he's kind of experimenting in that realm. But yeah, we're helping him achieve that basically.
Beck does some cool shit. One of the first VR things I've ever seen was a concert that Beck did where he put a 360-degree camera in the middle of his stage, and he had each section of the audience kind of like fanning out in a full circle around the stage, and each section was like a colored section with a piece of an orchestra behind the audience. So as he was performing, you could kind of like look around with him on the VR, and he would like point in one direction, and that part of the orchestra would play, and it was this crazy VR video experience.
Is it the David Bowie cover, the Sound and Vision?
I saw it a long time ago.
It's amazing. I didn't see it the VR method, but he had like a 360 microphone too, and he had all these different people. Oh my god, it's amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, he is a trip. Do you know anyone who's been to Silver Lake? I'm going to ask you guys. Have you seen that spinning foot For the foot
Yeah,
doctor?
the foot clinic. Yeah.
Okay, so there's an urban legend. I don't know
It's like
if this is
it's
true.
like
or not.
hurt on one side, and then on the other side it's happy because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
fix your foot or whatever.
So for anyone who doesn't live in Los Angeles, if you go down, I think, what is it, like Sunset?
Sunset.
We'll just say
In
Sunset.
Echo
It's
Park.
Sunset and like Rampart or
yeah,
something.
it's
Yeah.
like right where Echo Park is getting started.
Yeah, so somewhere in this area, there is literally this, it must be like 8 or 9 feet. It's an 8 or 9 foot that on one side, it's like smiling. It's having like a great fucking day. It's like a really great foot day for him. And then on the back, it's got like a thermometer coming out of its mouth and it's got like red eyes. Like it's just having a really bad foot day. And the rumor is like right next to it, there is like a Days Inn or some sort of Motel 6. I swear to God, this is like a true story I've heard. And Beck used to live there for a couple of like months. And when he would he'd wake up and he'd open up the window. And if the foot was happy, he knew he was going to have a good day. And if the foot was sick, he knew he was going to have a bad day. And like allegedly, he lived like this all the days that he was in that hotel. And like, I don't know if he drives by it and still has that same kind of like methodology.
Wow.
I don't know if he avoids Sunset, but that is one of the coolest stories I've heard of Beck because it just kind of solidifies him as like genius, weirdo, brilliant.
Genius weirdo.
I saw him perform. I think it was in like Barstow or something. They had this really weird
Yeah, I was with you.
integration. You were there. Oh,
Yeah, I was
that's
with you.
right.
Yeah.
We were there. We got really drunk, and it was like for some Levi's. Like they packed up all these art installations.
Station to
into a
station.
train. Station to station. Was it Levi's though? I don't know if it was. In any case, it was somebody, and they packed up all these art installations into a train and drove it across the country and stopped in all these different places, and then did a music show in each one. And the one we saw was Beck, and it was like I don't remember being like blown away by the performance to the point where I remember I was also very faded. But the one thing that he did do that I was like, this is nuts, is they had this spaceship that was flying around above the crowd as
a
he was
UFO.
performing, and there was like music that it was incorporated into the songs in some way.
Wow.
That was pretty nuts. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyway, I wanted to ask though, don't you guys also work with some of the more historic video artists like Jenny Holzer? Is that
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
fabrication or something like that?
Yeah, so we help them achieve what they're trying to do more from the perspective of hardware. We have worked with Bill Viola for a piece, and I
who's
believe
that?
it's in Bill Viola's.
Oh, he's legend.
So
He's
I mean I know him, but for people who don't,
He's
No,
like
trust me, I
he's like the
know.
grandfather of
I'm
video
cool
art.
guy.
Real clever Patterson. Yeah,
I
I know
know
this
Bill
fucker. It's like these Philistines have no idea. Go ahead.
Well, he's pretty much one of the grandfathers of video art.
yeah,
He's kinda
grandfather's
like,
video.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say.
yeah, of course.
Jacob.
There it is.
And the kind of work he produces is like
It's a lot of different things,
A lot of
but
different things,
but
Abstract.
well, the piece that he's doing specifically that we worked with him on is one where all of these people are filmed with a long angle lens in the desert, and they're just all walking towards the camera at different times. And so it creates this sort of, it just looks like this beautifully choreographed rainbow because they're all wearing different colors. And there's this, it's because it's with a long angle lens in the desert, it has like this wavy effect over it. So it just looks like a complete dream. And it's so perfectly choreographed and put together that it's something so simple, but it blows your mind. You just could stare at it forever. I mean, it goes on forever. It's just this like beautiful loop of like.
you can think of him as like one of the classical masters, but in video art.
Yeah.
And didn't he make something in like slow motion where he was hitting people with water?
Yeah,
or
with water.
floating
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something?
And they're just like slowly falling down and they're getting hit with water.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff that has to do with like temporality and time and stuff like that.
And then Jenny Holzer. What about
Jenny
about
Holzer
her?
is.
What'd you guys do for her?
We did an interactive piece with Jenny Holzer in San Diego. This is Qualcomm. This is like where they do all the chips for, I don't know, Qualcomm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Qualcomm. And it's in this.
Wait, what is it? This is something I actually don't know.
It's a technology. It's a technology company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they make everything basically that's in your phone and everything. So it's they have like a headquarters in San Diego, and she made this interactive screen where she has text scrolling across it with random phrases, and if you walk by it, you kind of the screen changes and has like these effects that appear. So there's a lot going on, but we worked primarily on A, the hardware, and then B, the effects, the interactive effects for the piece.
And she's a text-based artist.
She's a
like
text-based
video.
artist, yeah.
She's like Barbara Kruger of
Barbara
video artists.
Kruger, but with more digital stuff.
Yeah.
It was actually funny because Qualcomm's a really weird place, and we were documenting the piece, and there were people, this was kind of when it first came up, but there were people walking by who worked there, and they were like really fascinated by the technology of it, and like, oh, this is crazy, what is it, you know? And we're like, you know, it's this art piece. And they're like, but like, what's the purpose of it? And I was like,
Like, it just looks like Times Square or CNN
art,
building.
It's art, you know, it's art. It's like, what do you mean? There's no other like purpose for this other than for it to be pretty and like cool. And we were just like, yeah. So it was interesting.
Sorry,
guys.
Sorry, this looks fucking beautiful. Asshole.
That's one of my favorite things about. I think it gets off-putting when people see text, though. Like they feel like they're being advertised.
Yeah,
too. So
I don't know if they
it's
get
subversive.
it. It is. Text is a very interesting thing because even if you look at Barbara Kruger's work, it all looks like advertising, right? Because it's trying to comment on that.
And public art
so.
is kind of like claiming public space anyway, so people feel like they have some ownership over it, and like, why is this art in my space? It's a public art piece, blah blah blah. And then people hate graffiti for that same reason.
Right.
And so with her, it would be, yeah, that's interesting. It could be pretty subversive.
Well, to me, I think the whole thing about the reason why I even started this program at Standard Vision and why we're trying to move in a different direction with what we're doing is that we've been doing art for people in places around the world that we've never even been to. And who are we in a position to make art for this area of the world or this culture? You know, I mean, I think that the people that are making art in a city should belong to that city, should know that city, should understand that city. I think that anywhere you go, if you're going to represent something, you should understand it to a point where you could have a validated voice to represent that place.
It's interesting.
Right?
Yeah, that's I was applying for a job at Vans in their culture department, whatever that was, and they like wanted to host events and blah blah blah. And I come from the sneaker world, so they were like, let's talk. I think they did an event here and then told me that there was a position available. But that was one of the big parts of that conversation was like, they want to do this Brooklyn. I think they want to start a venue in Brooklyn. And they were like, well, you'd have to move there because we're not going to let some guy from LA just throw a bunch of shows in Brooklyn. Of
course, you got to know the scene. You got to understand what people like, what people don't like. Listen to people. The greatest thing is to go and listen to people and see what they're into.
How do you approach that?
With the art that we make? Well, the way that I've been approaching is that by trying to shifting it to other voices, I think at this point. We've been making some pretty non-controversial art anyways, but I think that we do run into problems when you make art in Saudi Arabia. It's like, okay, you can't show, women. Yeah. Like, unless they're completely covered, like, I mean, we pretty much, we don't. And some of the art is just involving like the king's face, it's like, okay, there it is.
Do you put like an ambassador on the ground floor and have them like as an influencer for your company or something like that to like inform you of what to...
It works differently there, and I can't really speak for some of our projects over there because some of them we're not even involved in because there's so little like creative freedom that we get, and that we focus on the ones that we do get to have creative freedom. I think in those types of countries, it's just like people just look at something and they're like, oh,
Didn't you actually make the king's face like giant on the side of a building?
We made a pixelated king's face.
I feel like that would be such a dope. I'd make it look like a Master P album cover where there's just like a bunch of like gaudy gold and just
come to my building.
It kind of looks like that, yeah.
We actually did a mural on 8th in Los Angeles, and it ended up being this big Teddy Kelly mural, and there was like all this drama surrounding it, and that's a story for another day. But the guy who owned the building used to shoot the cover of Lowrider magazine, I think, for its entire run for like 20 years or something. Wow. And also he shot all these celebrities, The Game, like Puff Daddy, all these different people. And also Vibe magazine, was that it?
I think so.
For like half of its run or something, but he shot every single cover of Lowrider magazine.
Oh wow, and that's amazing.
So he hit us, Patrick went and gave a presentation to like the building owners in the neighborhood, and then the guy hit us back like, pitch me something. And then he hit us up with an image that was just this picture he took of Puff Daddy that was like so fucking 90s, of Puff Daddy just sitting in like a convertible, just leaned back, and he's like, can you just paint this on the side of my building?
We were like, we'd love to. Let me pitch you a couple
Patrick just like makes totally bullshit Photoshop images all the time and sends them to me like it was like it's an actual pitch or something for our company. So I totally thought he just did that, and I was like, whatever. And then when we sit down for the meeting, he pulls it up and was like, holy shit, this is real. Like he photoshopped it onto the side of his building and stuff.
Amazing.
It was
we emerged relatively unscathed, and the mural looks great.
Yeah, I like that mural actually.
I do too. Every time I drive by it, it got graffitied for a while, so I used to avoid taking that road. But then we got it all cleaned up. That's kind of the end of the long story.
Now every time I bike home now from the think tank, ever since you told me that, like I used to go out of my way to go down 8th because I bike down 7th, but I always turn first on 8th so I can ride by the mural and like say what's up, and then I turn right after that and get onto 7th.
Yeah, that's our baby. That's our first mural. That's our only mural right now. Yeah, so that's got to change.
Well, only public mural.
True.
I actually pitched that artist to a furniture store. Yeah, because of the mural, because they were looking for some like geometric. Yeah.
Awesome. Let me know. I love hooking him up with stuff. I'm trying to get him to do some animation stuff because, as I know you're trying to curate some cool animation for the standard vision screens, I really want him to team up with someone who could do something dope.
That would be amazing. And I like his style.
Yeah, it could be sick, like some cogs or like some crazy shit.
Yeah.
But speaking of buildings, I want to talk about your photography.
Oh yeah.
So
wait,
my side job.
One last question about some of the standard vision stuff, and this is for the nerds like myself who are fascinated by the technology behind it. What software are you guys using? Touchpoint, correct?
Yeah, we
or Touch Designer.
Certain things. Yeah, I think it's a little bit unclear to me about the software side because I'm just not involved in it as much. But we do use Touch a lot to map the videos onto the screen, and then we have this playlist software that we created called the SV Runner, which is this like way to manage your content and put it up there and sort of schedule it and whatnot. So we're doing a combination of those two things. And then in terms of hardware, I have no idea.
I didn't want to hit you with the hardball about the hardware, but the SV Runner, out of curiosity, is that the same system that you're using to send information to like China in the Middle East when you're like working with these screens?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
So we're still working on developing it more and more each week, but I think it's getting there where yes, we are using definitely, because I know that we program stuff from here.
And how often do you get like the blue screen of death where like people are in China and you're like, it just says like, you have to restart Windows 10 or like a Windows 10 force restart. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Well, the SV Runner, I believe, has a backup system. So it's like if something goes down, there's a backup for it. And then there's a backup for that. In terms of hardware, like sometimes lights go out and those have to be fixed and there's maintenance. But yeah, I mean, every month or so, there's some little like thing that happens.
And don't you guys have like a live stream that you can see?
We have a live stream of the Marriott. Yeah.
That's cool. We'll post a link of that somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if it's public. Do we have a live stream of the Marriott that's public? I'll find out and I'll send you the link if we do. I know we have one for ourselves, but I don't know if it's public.
Yeah, that when I remember walking into your office and seeing that, and I was like, that is fucking tight.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, you should share that if you can.
So yeah, let's make the transition to your photography work because as we've spoken about earlier, I definitely am a fan of anyone who is successful at photographing that type of content, because to me it seems rather difficult. I mean, you can point a camera at a building all day, but to create art from a pinpoint perspective, I think is really a testament to a sharp photographic eye. So tell me a little bit about how you got into that and how you kind of honed in on that skill of photographing architecture.
Okay, so I'm pretty much primarily self-taught as a photographer. I picked up a camera when I was 18, and I think that it was because I was bored with living in Los Angeles, and I was like going to go to school here, and I was like, okay, now I have to be here for 4 more years. I've been living here my whole life. I might as well.
Where'd you live?
LA. I lived. I grew up in Highland Park, and then I went to school in like San Gabriel, South Pasadena. Then I lived in Hollywood and Glassell Park. But I've lived in different places in LA. But to me, it was like I want to go see the world. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to whatever. Now I love LA, and it's because of my photography. Because I find ways to photograph it that are different every time, and I will never get bored with it. So, but basically, to go back, I started when I was 18, and I was photographing pretty much the same things that I'm photographing now. It was just a little bit less focused. And I think that over time, I've sort of honed in the things that I really want to photograph and my sort of vision and my style. And I think that the aesthetics are largely influenced by, the modern art section at LACMA when I was little. My parents used to take me there, and I just like run around looking at color paintings, like those, those color study paintings that are just a block of color. And I was just so into that.
Like Rothko's and shit?
Like Rothko's and Frank Stella and like all those people that were just like, because like as a kid, like you don't care about like Manet's, like you just want to see like a cool bright color. I mean,
maybe
to me
most kids.
I don't know. I just
like that's kind of odd. Like it took me until I studied art history at UCLA, and it took me until my second year in that I was like, you know what, I like modern shit more, and then I completely flipped. But it was like the classical stuff that I was drawn to when I was younger. That's crazy. That was the first thing that you.
I don't think. Yeah, I think I'm a very visual person, so I don't really even care about like. I mean, not that I don't care, but at the time I didn't know or care about why or what. I think it was just an impulsive like I'm drawn to this. Object. And I think that a lot of the modern art speaks more to the creativity of children. I think that if you introduce them to modern art at a very early age, you can do other types of things, but I think that they might respond more to that. I remember being at the Armory in Pasadena. They had like art classes for kids, and we watched a video about Dali, and then like we painted something that was inspired, and my mom still has this thing in the hallway. It's like me, like I had painted a bunch of owls and a bunch of melted clocks.
Dude,
and it was like 5.
I want to see that. There's an artist named Cy. Do you know of the artist Cy Twombly?
Yeah.
He literally had kids make his paintings for him.
That's awesome.
They were dope. It was like, and it goes, you see him on the wall next to Jackson Pollock or Lee Krasner or whoever, but Cy Twombly would just give kids crayons and be like, draw whatever you want.
That's
and then sometimes
amazing.
he would add to it, sometimes he wouldn't. It looks very similar to some old de Koonings. This is going to be a podcast that we're going to have to post so many different links to different artists because this is a super visual podcast.
Yeah, this would be a great time to get an intern, like right now.
For real. What were you going to say, though?
I was just going to say, I could see it in your work. I mean, I think that's one of my favorite things about going through just your Instagram is how simple the lines and the vectors are to trace and how bold the colors are sometimes. I mean, because I could, if I was somehow able to block out the names of everybody on my Instagram feed, I would know exactly when you pull up every single time.
True.
And it's
even further than that,
a testament to your perspective, by the way, because I think photography is such a highly saturated market, especially on Instagram. I mean, like
even architectural photography. But I mean, I can see as a curator, I run into all the time, like people, obviously submissions to the gallery, but just other stuff. I'll see other stuff, and I'm always constantly thinking, like, could I use this guy for a show? And I have a few show ideas in my head, and I'll see someone and I'll say they would show well with Sinzi. Just other people's work I'll see and be like, that would work well with Sinzi. Like, forget just seeing your stuff in the middle of a, big pool of images. Other people's stuff I can see and be like, this is like Sinzi would look dope next to this person. And actually, one of the things that I love most about your work is you will often provide some like visual puns and like some kind of like some humor. Like you'll take palm trees and you'll show half a palm tree from like behind a building or something, and then a shadow of another palm tree is like completing it or something like that. How do you find these things? Like when you're walking around, and how do you find them?
I have no idea. Just like walk around.
What is your like? Maybe that's a great lead-in. Is like, what is your process? So like, do you wake up and say today's a photography day, and you like stroll around the park?
Sometimes I take my mom. Actually, she likes to go with me. We go on adventures. Now she's like getting really into photography also, so she's really into it too.
That is so cute. So you and your mom are a little like photo safari together around the city?
It's like we're detectives. We're going to find, because she's really interested in, we're both really interested in like the history of LA and like exploring Los Angeles and exploring little pockets of LA that had something there before that wasn't. I mean, honestly, I started getting really, really into photography when I discovered Broadway, which is right by here. And it's like, there's so many layers to Broadway. It's like one of my favorite streets to this day. And I was doing like black and white, sort of more like street photography type stuff, but I was still really obsessed with capturing like, okay, this is a church now. It used to be a theater. And this was like in the heyday, there was like Hollywood. And that's amazing to me. And so just seeing all of these little, and I think going to those places that have that type of history, you're bound to find something that's like overlapping something else that kind of creates this humor that you're probably talking about. I mean, it's not just a visual thing. It could also be like a sort of it's almost like an anthropological thing. It's like, oh, there's this little thing that used to be here, and now it's like a stucco, strip mall, and now it's like, half of a strip mall mixed with like this old piece of architecture. So
or you can turn one thing into something else. And Broadway is that street. Like every time there's a photo workshop or something, there used to be a gallery called like Hate Komodo, or some, I got to look up what it was, but it was the street photography gallery. I think it was on Hill Street. And all these big street photographers like Rinzi Ruiz and Eric Kim and like all these different people, they always, when they arrange their photo walks, they walk down Broadway or down Main or down Spring.
It's a very special,
Yeah. Do you do photo walks ever? Do you ever go in groups?
I'm like a very solitary person. I don't like to take anyone with me.
Except your mom?
It's like a secret, except my mom. Like literally she's the only person I feel comfortable going with. Even my boyfriend, like he takes photos of people, so he'll end up just taking photos of me. And I'm like, this isn't the point. Like this is about exploring. And he doesn't want to go to like, Victorville, look at strip malls, and my mom does. So, so there's that. I mean, I think that it'd have to be with people that are interested in similar things, but not too similar. So I don't know. I think that I'm just more like solo, and I do better if I'm by myself.
Yeah, and there's a good point that I saw on one of your interviews. I don't know if it was like Color Magazine or something like that, where you were talking about you'll be in your car and you'll just try to be conscious on your way from point A to point B, which is something I've tried to practice a lot in my time in LA, which is one of the reasons why I think I'm capable of loving LA when other people critique it so much. And they're like, oh, everything's so spread out and you have to sit in your car for forever. And I'm like, that commute is one of my most valuable times in my entire life. It's the only time when I can really stop. Like I probably listen to 5 to 6 hours of podcasts or audiobook stuff per day. I listen to it sped up 2 times, but it's because like during my workout in the morning, like the whole routine up until my commute to work, that's like some of the most valuable time. I take like a little turn, check out something I might not have seen before, right by MacArthur Park, right by the mural, like I said. And you were talking about you wanted to fall back in love with LA. So you started taking these moments that people usually critique about LA, and you started using the frame to omit the stuff you didn't want to see and focus on the stuff that you love. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, of course, Los Angeles is not the most beautiful place in the world. There's a lot of advertising. There's a lot of commercial stuff. There's a lot of trash. There's, just a lot of crap. And I guess that because I'm drawn to like very minimal aesthetic things that you might find like probably in Berlin or something, I'm trying to find something that I find beautiful about the city, and a photograph is basically a cropped image of reality. So I'm cropping by way of taking a photograph of the things that I think are really interesting, and that could be just the corner of this room or whatever, this little like crack in the wall. And so if you put them all together, that's like paints a picture of Los Angeles that you're not really familiar with, and it's not a realistic picture of Los Angeles, but it's the way that I want to see Los Angeles. It's not the way that it is, but I don't think the photography has to be it isn't a realistic depiction of things. It's
a curated vision.
So when you enter a new environment, like whether it be a strip mall in Victorville or wherever, are you kind of in your head cropping these images? Are you isolating elements with your mind first and be like, ooh, okay, that's it, and then you go in with the camera? I mean, in theory, that is kind of the sequence of events, but like even without your camera per se, are you looking for those like elements?
Yeah, I think I am actually, because I've been shooting with longer and longer lenses, but I mostly just shoot with one of 2 lenses. And then after a while, if you're shooting with the same lens, you learn to see the world through that lens without a camera. You can kind of like, okay, I'm looking at that thing, and I would crop, if I had to take a picture of that, whatever that sound thing is, I would just crop that corner of it and create something like that.
What lenses do you shoot with?
A 75 millimeter or a 150 millimeter, but those are on a medium format camera, so they're equivalent to like a 50 and a 80 or something. I don't know if that translates.
Can you kind of like explain the difference to people who are not photographers who might be interested in getting into it?
They're just longer lenses in general, but I believe that 85 in terms of an 85 millimeter in terms of like human vision is actually how humans see the world in terms of like depth. So at least one of those lenses is very accurate to that, except that I'm able to crop sort of the surrounding, because it's not a wide angle lens. Basically, I'm not seeing everything. I'm seeing a very small
So it's like you kind of have blinders on a little bit. And you said it changes somehow with a medium format camera?
Well, yeah, a medium format camera is a bigger sensor, so that the lens translates into a less long lens, if that makes sense. It's kind of technical. It doesn't... really make a difference. It's just that 35 is a smaller negative and a medium format is a bigger one. So the lens is, it's like full frame versus not full frame cameras in digital speak.
But since you've decided to kind of start sticking to these two lenses, at least for right now, you can walk around. Like I remember when I first started tagging, and before I got arrested and stopped tagging, I would walk around with my homegirl from Kentucky, who was the person who actually got me into it, and also Caleb, who's one of the guys that started Think Tank with us. And it just changed the entire world into a game. Even if I didn't have the pen on me, or in my pocket or in my backpack or whatever, I would be like on my way to school. I would take the bus to UCLA from wherever I was. I think I was in South Central at the time. And I would be like, I can hit this, I can hit this, I can hit this. And then I would set a goal to come back and get it at some point. And I would imagine that photography, I've played around with cameras before, but by no means was I ever a photographer. I would imagine that could be the same thing once you like really hone in on your instruments.
There's definitely a thrill to the whole thing, and it's also a frustrating thing because it's such a, like, I need to do it all the time and I can't because I have a 9 to 5. So it's like I come home from work and I'm on my way home. I'm like, I don't know, but I drive down the same street every day. There's different things every now and then that pop up, but like I just need to go. I think it's not so much, it's not just the fact that I want to go take photos. It's the fact that I want to go. It's so meditative for me. I get to go and choose a place, and then there's no time. Like time is no longer a thing. I don't have to be somewhere by 8:00, or I don't have to do this then. I don't have to go all the way there by a certain time. I can just stand in that area and then move around within the space for as long as I want to. And that's a good day for me, if I could just be left alone to do all of that.
So at what stage in your career, like how long ago was it where you looked at your images and you said, like, I could show these in a fucking gallery?
I think maybe like 3 years ago. Maybe.
And where was the first place that you displayed your work?
It was like a bike shop in like Cypress Park somewhere. It was some bike shop.
And did you just go in like, hey, I noticed you have work on your wall sometimes?
No, this girl that I met randomly happened to work there, and she was like, oh, we needed an artist. And it was just, one artist, a whole wall of, it was really cute. It was like it was like having your work in like a little coffee shop or something.
Did you show bikes in your photos?
There was one bike, I believe, in my photo, yeah. But it worked really nicely because it was a lot of walls. It was when I was still doing like walls, but it was like 35 millimeter, and they were very colorful. And I thought it worked really well with the neighborhood. A lot of the photos were taken in that area anyway, so it was like really nice.
Yeah. So you say you like to eliminate out of the frame the stuff in LA that you don't want to see so you can curate your vision. But you almost always eliminate people. Mm-hmm. So what's that? You're like, fuck all the people in my way.
Well,
I wish there was nothing else here except me and my camera.
Yeah, I used to shoot more people. I don't know why. It's just becoming less and less an interest for me. I think I used to shoot wider frames. Now I'm more and more focused. I'm going like closer and closer because I think, there's just less and less for me to find interesting. But I think that there's a level of... there's something about my photography that speaks to growing up in Los Angeles and growing up in a car. And it's a very lonely and alienating experience to spend most of your life in a car in Los Angeles, which is what most people do who don't take public transportation. But you don't interact with people, and that's the type of Los Angeles that I've always known. Like I grew up on a hill, like surrounded by like it was not the United States, like children taking the bus to school and like interaction. Like there was none of that. It was a very isolating world, and 20 minutes away from everybody else that lived in a so you have to take a car to go anywhere, and everything is 20 minutes away. So I think the characters that I came to know as like not my friends, but I think that I came to know the architecture of Los Angeles and the random sites along the way very well. Like I could, I know how to get from here to Burbank, from here to anywhere. I know all of the routes because I spent so much time in the car, but I didn't get to know all of the people. So I think that this is just something that speaks to my experience of how I grew up. Yeah,
that's interesting because I will tell people a lot of times you don't really know the city until you can get dropped off somewhere and be able to figure out where you are and how to get to wherever other places that you need to be, which is an interesting way to express getting to know a city because that eliminates all the people.
Yeah.
I just broke it down to
I think that there's two ways though, because there's two different things happening here. I think that this is my the way that I know the city, but the way that somebody that doesn't have a car knows the city is completely different, right? They would know the people. They would, you know, somebody that spends every day on the street interacting with people on a bus. You know, you mentioned Rinzi, who's I love his work. Amazing work. He takes photos of people. I think that he gets that scene so well. Like he's just like living. I feel like he's just living on the street forever. Yeah. Like that's the feeling that I get from him. Yeah. Whereas I do not do that, but I have this other thing that I'm doing.
That's Rinzi Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, who had his first show here actually, which that's where I first saw his work, and it was mind blowing. Yeah. I think he
and he wasn't even he was like taking a class. He was like just dabbling in it.
Yeah, I think he won Best Picture in that show. It was our first show called You Are Here. He cried in our interview. I remember that. It's in the recap video of that show. And then he curated the second You Are Here.
That's awesome.
With Jordan. No, Jordan won Best Picture, and Rinzi, I can't remember why. He was just, I think, our favorite photographer that we met in that show. But yeah, that is an interesting point, because like when I was living in the Jungles. Do you know what that is? By Baldwin Hills. It's the neighborhood at the end of Training Day where Denzel Washington stands in the street and he's like, King Kong ain't got shit on me, and then they kill him.
Okay.
That is, spoiler alert. I lived there, and I was like the only white dude that lived there, and managed at GameStop, got robbed at gunpoint. That's how my job ended. And then I would take the bus to UCLA, and you're right, it was much more of like a people-centric understanding of the city, because I knew like when at some point, like all the black people had gotten off, and then like now there's like Asian Americans getting on, and then by the time I got to Westwood, it was like all Asian Americans and white kids, and it was, I could see like stop by stop how the demographic of the bus would change.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it was interesting.
The one thing I have seen in your work that does play on the subject of people is I've seen some shadow work. And sometimes those like I know there's, you know, images where there's shadows of you. I'm sure that's probably as close to self-portrait as I've seen. Is that something that kind of splits the difference for you, where you're like, well, it's not quite people, but...
Well, I don't know if those examples specifically, but I do, even though there's no people in most of my photos, there is an element of human interaction that happens there. I mean, everything that has been built by humans, everything that has been touched by humans, there'll be a sign that says something that was written by a human. I think that there are human elements in my photos, and there's definitely attention to that. I just think that me personally, I don't find photographing people that interesting, at least not now.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know if I've seen a single photo that you've ever produced that is purely organic. There's always something like geometric or abstract, something man-made in the photos. I mean, maybe there are a few. I haven't seen every single photo you've ever taken.
There's a few that are organic, but yeah, mostly I like to have some reference to human.
Yeah.
So, as far as how your work has traveled, I know that you've gone as far as Europe. Can you tell me, can you give me a brief insight as to where you've been showing lately? What cities you've loved in the process of going to some of these events?
I haven't really gone to the events where my photos have shown, if it's internationally, just because they just happen, and it's like, okay, I can't really pick up and go to Rome right now or wherever, it's like, I'd like to, that'd be great. But I haven't really been to those places, but I have shown in Rome, Germany, Australia, I think once was there's a lot of different places, Switzerland. But it's just people in Europe really like my stuff. I think that they're really into it there.
They also fetishize LA. LA gets fetishized a lot in a lot of different places.
That's true. I think that though it's also like a minimalist architecture thing that they go for too. But yeah, they do fetishize LA and America in general, and like American photography.
Yeah.
How does that feel? Like 3 years into really like going from bike shop to Berlin. Like how have you really taken it and
from bike shop to Berlin?
Right, yeah, the title of your autobiography. Great. I just fed that shit to you.
That's pretty good.
Has it kind of like fed into your confidence? Like, you know what? Like I can do this shit. I'm like, it's not just for me; it's for other people now. Or you kind of like, well, I'm just gonna do me, and then like I think other people are liking it now.
I'm just happy to know that other people get it and that they're interested in it. I gave a lecture recently, not recently, but like within the last year, somewhere in Chinatown. And I asked my sister, "Hey, are you going to come to my little sister's 21, just crazy? Are you going to come to my lecture?" You know, and she's like, "Why? So you could talk about walls?" I'm like, okay.
So not everybody gets it.
Well, now she likes my work. I don't know. She went to my lecture actually, and she liked it, and she gets it now. Maybe I don't know.
Your family's supposed to mock your work. If everyone else is like drinking
they are.
off, you have to have your family there to talk shit.
But luckily, my family, being some of the most critical people I've ever met in my life, they actually love my work, which to me, that's like success, because it's like all my life they were like, "Oh, you can't be an artist. Like, you're not even good at drawing." Like all these things. Like my mom would say that. And then my dad was like, "Don't be an artist. You're not going to make any money," and all these things. And now they're like really proud of me. And I actually value my mom's opinion on the things that, you know, like, "Oh, this photo I really like because of this, but this one I don't know so much." And I'll actually take that in as good criticism. And but yeah, I think that I'm just happy that, you know, people like, I'm friends with my PE teacher from middle school or elementary school on Facebook, and she loves my photos. And I'm just like, what? This is crazy. Like these people that are just like, would never, ever, you know, you've never in a million years think that they would be into anything like that. They're just like, "Oh, I love it." And so that's really nice to hear. I think when people that you wouldn't expect to like your work is really, really nice. But aside from that, it's like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And if people like it, that's great. If people don't, that's fine too. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I just want to keep learning. I think that I'll never be like, you know, perfect, you know, and there's always room to learn. There's always room to get better and develop. And as long as I can keep developing, then I'll never be bad at it, I think, right? I mean, you can only...
The good thing for a photographer is that so often photographers like decide they want to do a series. Like, I'm going to do a series on feet. I'm going to do a series on shadows. I'm going to do a series on whatever. Like, didn't you say that you came here to shoot something? I think it was 27 frames, which was like a disposable photography experiment.
Yeah.
And you came to our district, the fashion district, and shot something in a parking garage. And you were like, "I'm going to start," or you like did a whole photo shoot in there and you're like, "I'm going to start doing this." Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I want to. I haven't done it yet. That was really recently when you guys did the Scott Hove thing. I was just happened to be in your neighborhood because I had to come and fix something with the screen. So I literally, it was like, I came here to do something here, and then I just left. I was like, you know what, I should finish this roll off because I have to send it soon. So I just started walking around, and then I wandered into this parking garage. It's on Maple, like a block and a half away. Amazing parking.
Yeah?
It was like mind blowing. Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
It's got this crazy,
you're right. It's like, it's hard to go up to someone. Like, it's hard to like go to bed at night with your girl and be like, "I just saw the most amazing fucking parking lot. Like, you should have seen the lighting fixtures. I fucking died." They're like, I don't know what.
Yeah, the lighting fixtures were great.
Because we're all getting weird here right now. On the top of the Maxfield building, which is where we did Take Me Home LA, which we'll get to. If you look down from like the corner that's like facing the eastern, there's a parking lot that you can look straight down and see all the tire marks that have ever been made. That one's pretty sick.
That's not the one that this is?
It might be the same. No, it's on the other side.
Different one. Yeah.
It's on the other side. Whatever is the next street up from Santee. I think that's Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I think that's where the entrance is. It's like the entrance is. It's the parking lot across the street from the Teddy Kelly mural. That's what it is.
Okay.
But you can see it from the top if you look down from the Maxfield building.
Yeah.
It's interesting too because the first that You Are Here show that we're talking about, Nima, our friend Nima, who was one of the original think tankers who has helped us do so much, a photographer, a designer, many things. He was one of the headlining photographers and curators of the first You Are Here show. And he took this photo that was like these 5 orange squares, and one of them had like a line through the middle of it. And I didn't know what it was for so long. We had the photo. He left it here before he moved to New Mexico. And then one day I looked across the street and saw out of our window the parking garage and it was nighttime with the lights on, and it was orange. And I was like, that was it. It was like, I was like forensic, where I was going to like superimpose these 2 images over each other and be like, that's the one. And the little line through it was the paint that was on the wall in the column. The parking garages can look really cool. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, no, I think I am going to do a series, and specifically because the ones in the fashion district are so good. They're just like so many great ones, and you can kind of walk around and explore them, and there's a lot going on.
Well, people, send suggestions of your favorite parking lots and parking garages to Sinzi. She'll appreciate them.
For sure.
And that the collaboration that we did for the Scott Hove show, that was a screen that we did that was transitioning between water and fire. And it was for Standard Vision, right? Do you want to just explain what that was to the?
Yeah, well, it was more like a collaboration that we provided the hardware for Scott Hove's cake maze show, which was what?
Break bread.
Yeah, break bread. So he had this crazy cake maze, and at the end of the cake maze, there's a giant LED screen that is projecting fire looped with water, and it was like supposed to be like heaven hell type of dichotomy thing going on. And we added an interactive component at some point because you guys had some like interactive theater going on. That was really cool. That was very fun.
And it was like a hallway of mirrors, so it looked like it stretched on forever.
Yeah, it was like an infinity room.
That was a big
thousands
hit.
and thousands of photos taken in front of it.
Tons.
And now we hope to collaborate with Standard Vision many times because of that.
Yeah.
So your work has traveled really, all over the world, like you said. But your work is so much about, like, we're planning a group art show, kind of about LA, but maybe Southern California, maybe just California in general, called Drinking, Smoking, and West Coast. And it's a show that we've invited you to. And I've pointed out some photos that I really like. So hopefully you'll pick those ones that you want to submit for the show.
I'm super excited.
That one's going to be really fun. And I have, like I said, I've been thinking of curating some artists to go around you. I don't want to say who they are yet, but there's some, I'll tell you after this podcast, but there's some really exciting ones, some very, very big names that you'll know in LA. So I'm really, really stoked about it. But point is, I went to your last show at it was like somewhere upstairs in the Wiltern
it was
building.
the AIA, the American Institute of Architects office and gallery.
Yeah.
And they had I had a solo show there. It's the 8th floor of the Wiltern building, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome.
Love that building.
Yeah, the place is so dope. But I was looking at your work and I was like, oh, I really want this one. You're like, but that's in Palm Springs. It's not in LA. And I was like, it still fits. People from LA go to Palm Springs all the time. So what percentage of your work is taken in LA, and are you restricting yourself to only LA? Like, are you pigeonholing yourself? Are you worried about that? Do you want to be able to go shoot in other cities, or do you have to shoot in LA because you kind of set that out as your own mission now?
I think it's definitely changing. I think that LA was the starting point, and now I'm branching out into Southern California. And I think the whole idea behind it is that I like to get to know the places that I photograph. So wherever I am able to go, I can spend a little bit of time there and explore that area and keep coming back to it. So I've been going to Palmdale, Victorville, Apple Valley, Lancaster, Palm Springs. I did like a day in Palm Springs. I'd love to go back because it's got some great gems. I think after a while, everything starts looking the same, especially the way that I photograph it. So you can't really tell. I think that there's definitely, wherever I go, I do have a anthropological approach to the whole thing. So whether it's Los Angeles, I have a thing about Los Angeles. If it's Southern California as a whole, I have some thoughts about that. And I think that I have done stuff in the past that has been around, like there's one, I did a series called Highway 395, or no, Postcards from Paradise. It's along Highway 395, I'm sorry. And there's a lot of stuff that I do that's focused around the American West and like traces of the myth of the American dream, and basically people that came out west to find a dream, and they either left to go find bigger dreams, and so they leave these things behind, or there's just different evolutions of this that's happening. So I'm definitely interested in doing that. So that would take me all around the Southwest. I recently did a road trip through Arizona, and I was finding little relics of Route 66 and like weird little things along the way. And so, yeah, I could definitely do a bunch of different areas. My family's from Romania, and I've been there a lot. And that's probably, if you ask me one place I want to go to in the world, it would be there. I've been there like almost every year. I used to go in the summertime, and I don't really want to go to like Southeast Asia. I don't really want to go to like crazy exotic places. I just want to go back to Romania and get to know it more because I speak the language. I can have conversations with the people that live there. I can learn about the culture more. And I think that that's really important. Anywhere you go, you should sort of immerse yourself in that. So if I were to do photography outside of Los Angeles, I would try and spend time and take the initiative to get to know the place, whether it's reading about it or anything like that. Just spending time there, I think, is very important.
Yeah, and you would do a really, really dope coffee table book about a road trip. So you should do many of those because they would be so sick.
I just did a book for this vinyl subscription company.
Oh yeah, tell me about
that's
that.
Our road trip. So there's this vinyl subscription company called Vinyl Moon, and they basically make a mixtape and they press it to vinyl and they send it to you every month. Every month they commission a different artist to design the jacket, insert, everything.
This is so sick.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
It's like it's like a
cool.
curated mixtape that
On vinyl.
On vinyl.
Do you tell them your taste first before, or do they just like get what you get?
It's
you don't
kind
throw a
of
fit?
well, it's like you let them curate it. The guy who started it had like a music blog for a while, and it's a lot of sort of indie artists, but it can be a little bit electronic, it could be a little bit rock. You know, it's kind of within the realm. It's like imagine if KCRW sent you a vinyl, but it may be a little bit less, like, because there's lesser known bands mixed with some bands that you might hear on KCRW also. It's kind of like this.
It sounds so quintessentially hipster, but it's such a guilty pleasure that I would totally indulge in.
I know, right?
I'm literally thinking I'm going to fix my record player, which is broken right now, and sign up for this service just because how sick it sounds.
And what's so amazing about it, not even so much the music, forget the music, I love music, but when I saw the covers that had been done by the previous artist, there was an artist that did a graphic novel. And so there's this entire graphic novel. So you're listening to music and you're reading this graphic novel comic thing, and it's like a spread. There's another guy who did a massive collage that's like, you open it up and it's like 6 layers of a collage.
Whoa.
Then I did so basically I listened to the music and I was like, this sounds like a road trip. So
That's awesome.
I was like, I'm going to take this budget and go on a road trip and bring back a book and basically of my experience. And
God, that's so dope.
so I did a road trip to Arizona, and I was interested in basically, like I said before, the traces of the American dream in the American West, and sort of nature, architecture, all of these things. The most amazing thing, I mean, we went to see, I brought my boyfriend along, and we went to see like the Grand Canyon, Monument Valley, all of those things. But the favorite thing that I took a photo of was this strip mall right outside of Monument Valley that was like salmon pink, so ugly. And it had this like awning that had this really amazing picture of Monument Valley, like graphic, like almost like if it was done in like the 80s, 90s. Like, it's so cool. And like that was just it by itself. There were no signs or anything. It was like, it wasn't even a store. It was just this awning. It was amazing. It was like the picture of Monument Valley on a strip mall.
That is so dope.
So that's the cover of the vinyl itself.
That's so sick.
I got to pick the color of the record.
Whoa.
I was like kid in a candy shop. I can pick the color of this record. So the whole thing is color coded, and there's like a little bit of writing about it that I wrote, and yeah, very excited.
That's so awesome.
about it.
I sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's kudos to them for giving you so much like creative license.
That was the most fun thing I've ever done and gotten paid to do. I mean, I can't even, like, I just want to do it over and over and over again. So.
Yeah, we're not paid by this company, by the way. This is like genuine enthusiasm.
Yeah, sorry.
Amongst all
We
three
should
of us.
try to be shit.
Yeah.
Sponsor ever.
Patrick at thinktankgallery.org. Go ahead.
I can say, though, that when you get those opportunities as a creative professional where you can set about going on a trip with a creative goal in mind and set aside a budget, whether it's internally or the opportunity is a paid gig by someone else, those are the things that we live for as creatives. And going on a trip like this with an intention in mind, like even if you build the trip for yourself, like for example, I took a train, the West Coast Starlight Tour, and I highly suggest any creative take a train somewhere at some point. Amtrak actually has a residency program, which we should definitely try to pitch you for, where you build your own route around the United States of America. And they will pay for all of your trips. And I think they must, because some of the tickets, like the ticket I took, for example, was in the sleeper car, and you get 3 meals included in your ticket, and it's like a little hotel room on a train. It's so amazing.
Oh my God.
And you can like build your own trip, and you have to pitch them. Like it's almost like a corporate grant where you say like, this isn't what I did, but I really want to. And you say, it's primarily for writers, but I bet they would be down for someone like you, where you say, I'm going to go all of these cities for this reason. This is the project I'm working on. And they'll be like, yep, cool. Here's your tickets. And they came up with it like 2 or 3 years ago. Anyway, I was like, I'm not going to try to pitch them something. I don't have anything good enough to pitch yet. I just want to clear my hard drive and write about a couple ideas that I've been meaning to get out. And I took a train up to Seattle, and I stopped in Sacramento because that's where I'm from, Portland for a couple of days because I had some homies there, and ended up in Seattle. And then I flew back. And it was one of the most incredible things ever, because you have this intention. You're like, this is what I'm doing. I was working the whole time. I almost never stopped working, but it was amazing. And the next thing I want to do is I want to buy or rent a Corvette, a classic Corvette, or a new one. Through my research, I'm starting to realize that it will probably end up being a new one, and I want to drive across the country to the East Coast and back. And I'm finding out that there's people who will buy cars and pay others to drive them across the country. And this dude my mom works with does that, like for his side hustle. So I'm strongly considering trying to figure that out. And if you are down, there's 2 seats in Corvettes, and you could maybe do a photo series, because that'd be
When are you going to do that?
Anytime in the near future that I can. I don't know.
Sounds amazing.
Is there a back seat?
There's a trunk. You could probably hop in.
I like it, gangster style.
Have you ever gone on like a intentioned creative journey? Like with a goal in mind?
Like drugs. It never ends well. I think I did acid once in college, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to totally like, it was the first time, so I just didn't know what I was getting into. And I was like, actually, there are 2 times where I went on a creative journey and stumbled. The first of which, I was in college. I did acid for the first time. And I was like, I had all these images in my head of these like prolific geniuses who'd distill these brilliant ideas on acid. So I'm like, now's my time. I'm in college. This is how we do it.
They do that on like their 30th time.
I didn't know that. And so I'm like sitting in the middle of like the student union, and I break out my cell phone to record this genius that's brewing in my brain. And I listen to the recording the next day, and it's literally me going, I don't know. It was me going, I don't know. I can't even get it out. I was like, I don't know. And I could not get anything out.
It's kind of dope.
I wish so bad I kept that recording.
Oh my God,
so naive. Perfect. It was a really bad acid trip. And then the second time
I did that once on mushrooms, and I thought I wrote this amazing thing, and I just kept circling words that matched other words on the page, and drawing lines and circling the other words. And then Mark Schuster, who we had on this podcast, read it to me. He was like, I have to see this. We had a meeting, and he was like, oh, how was your trip? And I was like, oh, I did mushrooms by myself, way too many. I took like 3 times as much as I meant to, and I was like, fuck. And then I got caught on the beach by myself, and I wrote this thing, and he read it back to me, and I was like, dude, this is pretty nuts. Here, someone else read it.
Yeah. And then like the second time, I don't know, I think I went to like Joshua Tree, and like before we left, we had gotten like all these art supplies. We'd gotten like clay, we had gotten paint. We were like, man, we are gonna like find our creative flow. And of course, like not a single art supply was used. We just flew our kites for like 3 hours.
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
I agree. It was like therapeutic, until someone lost their kite, and it was like really dramatic.
On that trip for me, I was walking down the beach, and I'll just tell the story. Fuck it. So I went to we have this place that we go to in Santa Barbara. It's called the Orchid, and it's this fucking magical place. Like we went camping there this last 4th of July, and the group thread for the camping trip was called Magical Orchid Camping Trip. It's just this magical place. You fucking have to come there. We'll take you there.
All right.
I'm saying it right now. We have to go together.
Okay,
You're going to love it. Matter of fact, we need to go there and shoot the place, because we're helping them. We're going to try to help them like book the venue out for various things, creative and otherwise. And you could totally help with that. It's an incredible place. Anyway, so they have 1.5 miles of, there's no such thing as a private beach in California, but it's blocked off by cliffs on both sides. So the only way to get in is through their property. And you can kind of like, if the tide is low, walk around and get onto the next door neighbor's property. But like, their neighbors are like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt have a house there. So it's like really, really remote. So I go there, and I was like, because I write everything down in a notebook, this notebook I have here, and I've filled like 9 or 10 of them. And just every time I come up with an idea, I throw it in there. And I was like, you know what? I've never assembled all these ideas to say, is this something I want to do or not? And so I went there with the intention. I think it was for my birthday. Patrick was there for like half of it. My girlfriend went and met me there. And I was like, I'm going to write down every single idea onto one piece of paper, and then I'm going to like pare it down to like the 10 things I want to do next or whatever, and then focus on 3 that I'm going to start on tomorrow. And so I went in, I started doing that, and it was getting later and later in the day, and I was like, man, I need to finish this, because I'm going to do like my reward was I was going to do these mushrooms, and I had all these mushrooms, and I was like, okay. And there's this one guy there named Jesse who was like another guy who did drugs, and he walked by, and I was like, So I was like, dude, I'm going to go do mushrooms right now. I opened the thing, ate them all, and I realized I had only meant to eat a third of them and then take a couple more caps later if I realized I wasn't feeling it as I started to walk down the beach by myself. And I was like, shit, Jesse, I just took all of them. I didn't mean to. Come find me on the beach in a couple hours if I don't come back. I ended up like walking down the beach by myself. I ruined all my fucking food. The strawberries like smashed into the bread. It was like this crazy thing. I wrote that thing that I was talking about. The seal came up. I totally thought the seal was trying to kill me. I got horrified and I decided I was gonna try to experience what it felt like to die. Sat on the beach and just thought about it for as long and hard as I could. Went all the way there and came all the way back. Then when I came back, I went to take a nap, laid down, and someone started blasting punk rock music right outside the room at that time. So I was still tripping on mushrooms. I decided to go in and clean these like old bathrooms, and there was all these spiders hanging from spider webs on the ceiling, and I was high on mushrooms listening to Johnny Cash like hitting the spiders up the spider webs. There were spiders falling all over me. It was terrifying, but it was also the best psychedelic experience I've ever had.
That's all very of that,
dark. All of that, a divergence on what we actually meant by taking a trip. Have you ever, Patrick, taken an actual trip, like somewhere, driving, going anywhere with an intention for a creative project?
No, just drugs. That's kind of what I was getting at. But I'd like to. So open up that trunk. I will just poke some air holes in there and like stick a bunch of like memory foam pillows in there so I can just like curl up in a fetal position until we get to Arizona or whatever.
Well, it sounds like we're getting...
Patrick, give him drugs and put him in the trunk.
True.
If you could just give me drugs and put me in a bathroom and I would figure something out.
That is terrifying. I think what we can do is I can just slightly alter my dream and turn it into a Camaro, and then there's back seats.
Yeah, Jacob's worst nightmare is me sitting next to him on a long trip. That would just
That's why you can sit behind me. Sinzi can sit next to me.
That's true.
Have you done any other road trip, like photo trips?
I actually, for my birthday, I think it was like 4 years ago, 5 maybe, I went on, I impromptu called Nima, our friend, and Renson, also our friend, and was like, yo, I want to go to Death Valley for my birthday. Come with me. I just want to take people to photograph. Yeah. And then we ended up making a music video for them, like randomly just, and I just basically mapped out a bunch of ghost towns. Like, I'd made this crazy map with all these weird ghost towns, and then I kind of followed it, but kind of didn't. But we found some really weird places along the way, and
that's awesome.
We shot in some cool
So let's talk about music videos.
Yeah, that's a great transition. Thank you very much.
Doing our work for us.
So I'm very curious because I have background as a cinematographer. I've done that for almost 10 years now. How do you refocus your perspective when shooting with a camera that's going at 24 frames per second as opposed to just shooting stills? Is there a different approach that you take? I mean, obviously each project is going to warrant something different, but how do you, define your style as a DP versus a photographer?
Yeah, I would say that I'm still learning in that realm. I really haven't quite mastered. And in fact, I would say that it's so the opposite from what I do as photographer, because I'm photographing things that are in direct sunlight at like the worst times of the day, and then everything when you shoot it, like any kind of film, you're like, oh, we want it to be magic hour and it's perfect, and it's like front lit, or not front lit but backlit. And so I'm still learning how to figure that out. And also movement, of course I don't really, I actually don't like to shoot a lot of things that have a lot of movement, and I've been DPing for more narrative stuff, and I find that that's more exciting to me, especially if it's like conversational narrative films that aren't like action movies. But I did grow up watching music videos a lot in the heyday of music videos, like 1998, like 2000s. I loved rap videos. Like that was like my dream, was to make rap videos.
Like the Hype Williams
Now, not
ones?
so much anymore. Now I'm like, just like all of the like Radiohead videos and all of the
What's
very
your favorite
creative
rap video? Busta Rhymes, give me some more.
I love that one.
Hype Williams.
I
What's
love
the
that
one
one.
with Busta Rhymes and Janet Jackson?
The,
Is that it?
the
Just
one,
give me some more.
it's Give Me Some, I think it's that one. The
I
one where they're
think
like
Janet
all
Jackson.
I like all the Missy Elliott videos. The one where she's, the old one, the like I Can't Stand the Rain, where she's in like a big,
that's such a good song
big
and video.
suit.
Yeah. Oh, wait, the Janet Jackson one is Want to Make Your Body Feel Whatever.
Want to Make Your Body Feel Whatever by Janet Jackson.
I think it's called Want to Make.
The Hype Williams era was so... It felt like such a bizarro television experience for a child, because your eyes are already so open to the world, And then you have Busta Rhymes, who is like a very immersive looking human being, is like the way I'll put it, in front of a fisheye lens, in front of like a symmetrical backdrop with like, and then like you got like Diddy in the background, like wiggling like a fucking
oh man, I wish we had the 360
like,
video streaming happening right now.
Like one of those inflatable car salesman noodles. You're like Diddy in the background, like, and you're like, dude, this world is dope. Like that's probably what got me into rap music. Like that, and like my first Root CD was like, these aesthetics are bananas.
That was when our friend Elliot, who owns the building we did the mural on, was shooting.
Yeah, that was his high time.
Yeah.
What other music videos do you remember from that time?
You know, it's weird. So I told you I spent a lot of time in Romania, and I basically, that's where I watched most of the music videos that I watched. And there's these like German channels that had like, you know, techno and really, really weird, bad choices, like very bad choices were made like in the 90s in Europe from the, and so I have these really weird memories of these like intense, like very acted out videos where like they're, you know, it's just so cheesy, but I just loved the aesthetic. Like there was just something really weird about them. So I don't even remember by name like what they were, but yeah, I mean, I remember seeing like Fatboy Slim music video where like some guy has these, and this is like a really obscure one, but it was like some dude walking around with a sound system, and every time he turns the sound system on, everybody just freaks out. It's like this, and he's like in the, you know, some like Jamaican like little town, and it's just like this really weird video. I don't know, that's like something I remember.
Remember the Christopher Walken one where he's dancing?
The Christopher Walken one was great.
Weapon of Choice.
Which one was that?
The
Weapon of Choice.
Yeah, I think that was.
It was either Spike Jonze or it was
Chris Cunningham or Spike.
Chris Cunningham.
I think
Yeah.
there was also
What
the
was the
Michelle
band,
Gondry one that was
The
which
band
one?
was
Fatboy Slim.
Yeah,
Fatboy
that's
Slim.
what came to mind.
Yeah, then there was the Chemical Brothers one with the train. Did you see that one? It's like every time it's like the most incredible thing ever, but every time there's like a different note in the song, a different thing appears. Like it's all something seen from a train, and it's like these little like things that come up, and it's all to the music very specifically, and it's all like very technical.
I have this box set of DVDs that's Michelle Gondry, Chris Cunningham, and Spike Jonze, and it's like their dopest music videos, and like the Beastie Boys shit that they did, and just my god, there's so many good things.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones, but basically so that's what I grew up on, and I always wanted to, and I mean, I loved Britney Spears music videos. Like I loved Backstreet Boys. I loved Eddie, all of the bad stuff.
Remember the Britney Spears one where she's wearing the red jumpsuit and like spinning around?
Yeah. The space one.
It's part of my dream.
It was a space one, man.
Yeah.
That was classic. Did you watch any of the Chili Peppers videos? I mean, like you were a California girl. Those are like, those had a character in and of themselves.
Yeah, like there was the black and white one, and
there was
Scar Tissue and
Other Side. Do you remember?
Yeah.
The Other Side video, for me as like a director, cinematographer, like that one is like imprinted in my mind like a plasma screen that's been left on too long. It's like inescapable. Like it was a German expressionist play on basically Dr. Caligari-ish looking imagery, and it just totally blew my mind.
I have to rewatch that.
I've been using that music video. I've been watching it on repeat while I'm writing the curatorial statement for Drinking, Smoking, and West Coastin', which is really difficult to do, to write in 1 or 2 pages how I feel about LA and why I want all of these, try to inspire all these artists to like want to show together for that feeling.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
I think that's
really
great.
fucking
That's a good
hard.
challenge for
It's
you.
one of the hardest things that I've ever written. I keep,
It's
and
like-
one of the artists who we're kind of throwing the show with, he keeps hitting me up and he's like, yo, are we ready to move on to the next step? And I'm like, dude, I can't fucking do it. I can't write this thing. But that's been helping. Just
But
watching
maybe
that video over and
it's just really just an honest, like, because there is very hard way. It's very difficult to understand why all of these things represent Southern California or the West Coast or Los Angeles in the same way. I mean, it's like there's so many different aspects all at the same time. Just like now we're talking about music videos, and I loved rap videos, and then it's the same thing. It's
well,
like
it ties in because it's like the same way that we say these Europeans have fetishized your work to some degree and think like this is what LA looks like, this is what we want LA to look like, like what Sinzi wants LA to look like. And then a lot of people say like they were exposed to American culture by watching shitty TV or music videos during that era. I have homies, a lot of European homies tell me that. For me, I'm from Sacramento, which is like the Bay's little cousin, and there was a very much like a fuck LA kind of thing, largely because when I was in high school, there was a rivalry between the LA Lakers and the Sacramento Kings, which sounds stupid, but it was legitimately a huge thing. And there was this whole culture of like people in LA can't say hella. And so I always had this fetishized idea of what LA was too. And then when I got here, I was like, dude, I fucking love this. This is great. It's like you're supposed to hate on LA, especially for NorCal. Everyone hated on LA. Maybe New York was the only place that hated on LA more. But
I agree with that. I mean, not to harp on this too far, but also being from Northern California, it was like Northern California was where we kept it real and where everything was like actually pretty. And then LA was like this like fake ass beach dumpster where like people came to like sell themselves.
But I love it.
yeah, that's why we love
And
it.
I love NorCal too for different reasons. But yeah, and for those reasons.
It's a little bit of a beach dumpster, but I like the fact that, you know, I tell people this all the time. It's like when you go to New York, and like I've said this in front of New Yorkers and they nod their head like without disagreement because it's really not like much of an indictment. But it's like when you go to New York, there is a prerequisite. Like when you sign your lease, part of that lease is like you have to be faster. Like a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You have to talk faster. You got to move faster, or else like this taxi driver is going to honk at you, or this dude is going to call you a fucking dickhead and shove you out of the way. And the thing about LA is there is no prerequisite to like be faker. You don't, you know, when you sign your lease, you're like, all right, like now you got to start like fake laughing at shit, and
you can
like,
find that if you want to.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
I mean, it's
no,
there.
Many people do with the intention of coming to LA to get that, the glitz and the glam. They find it.
I agree, but I think what I learned here, which I didn't know living up north, was that I could come down here, surround myself with the collective melting pot that is like the growing Los Angeles population, and have them not have expectations for me to be anything other than myself. And
you can make it what you want it to
exactly.
That's what I love
It's a big
about
enough
it.
city.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can focus on what you want to as well. Like you, one of the reasons you've probably been able to extend your work for so long is because the neighborhoods just like, have you seen Los Angeles Plays Itself by Tom Anderson? Oh my God, that movie.
Yeah.
That's another thing I've been watching while I've been writing this thing. Have you watched it yet? Oh my God, you got to watch it. It focuses on that too. It was a bunch of disparate villages that grew until the point that their boundaries started to become blurred. But you can still go to these. We just did a show called Same Cities, LA. It was like this nonprofit that came in and they just kind of focused on different neighborhoods, and you could just go in and look at them. And Angelinos love that shit. Like you would be Curbed LA's little poster girl.
I love Curbed LA.
You would. You're like, I love these different neighborhoods and like finding out what the history used to be. We had a guy named A.R.T. Simon in here on the podcast, and he was talking about how Pershing Square, the park, used to be all lush and green, and then it's transitioned so many different times. It used to be a place like before there was Grindr, all like the homosexual community would come there and they would meet up and like hook up, but then also give each other like there's a networking opportunity thing that would take place at this park. There's so much history in all these different places.
Yeah, that's what's great about it. And there's still so much. I didn't even know that about Pershing Square, and I love Pershing Square. I'm actually sad that they're doing a different
Changing
design on it because I love that design. It's
Yeah,
so
you
bad.
would. You would. That's so funny. Yeah, Ari
You
hated
are the
it.
demographic.
The best photos ever.
Yeah,
like, the
you
best-
are the
Oh
demographic.
Well,
my
you better
God, I
start
love
getting it. You better get every photo you possibly can.
I've done quite a few there, so I'm okay. But I'm excited to see what'll happen. But yes, that's true. There's so much to learn about it, and there's so many things that cross over within neighborhoods. There's neighborhoods. There's a website called Mapping LA, which is part of like LA Times or something. I literally go there for reference because I'll take a photo somewhere and I'll be like, what is this neighborhood actually called? And it has it drawn by lines of streets. So like there's like, little states, in like the United States. It's amazing because there's like, there's historic Filipino town, but historic Filipino
That's where
town
I
is
live.
also Westlake, and it's also like something else. And then I used
Rampart
to
Village.
Yeah, Rampart, and I used to live in what is technically called Wilshire Center, but nobody knows that name. It's just East Hollywood or Virgil Village, but there's like a million names for
Thai
it,
Town's
and
over
then
there.
it crosses. Yeah, Thai Town's a little bit, and Thai Town's also Little Armenia. So it's like, and you have these cultures living side by side. It's really fascinating. I
Yeah,
love
the
it.
first time I came to LA, I think the very first time I came to LA as an adult, I wanted to go see Think Space Gallery, and I think they were located in East Hollywood, and I was like, this is not what I thought Hollywood was in my ignorant, naive young mind. And it's just so different. It's still called East Hollywood, like North Hollywood, so much different. Everyone who's not from LA right now is like, oh my God, more Angelinos just jerking themselves off about different fucking parts of the city. So let's talk about
Well, one question: are you a lifer? Like, do you think you'll spend your life in LA?
Probably.
Your
I mean,
family's also from here.
I'll probably live other places for periods of time, but I definitely have it all planned out. I'm gonna live here. I'm gonna have kids here.
Hopefully the
if I do.
microphone is picking up you making a little Play-Doh snake like Jada is.
If you had only banked on your Pokemon Go idea before Pokemon Go was Pokemon Go,
man.
you could have a house in every place you've ever wanted to have a house.
Wow, yeah.
So what was that idea?
Well, it wasn't really related to Pokemon Go, but I still think it's possible because, so here's the thing. I've always wanted to make a GPS-based app that has like a very curated selection of hidden gems around Los Angeles. So like if you find yourself in Eagle Rock or East Hollywood, anywhere, right? You just open the app and it's like, okay, over here there is a whatever random site that is either historical or is this really weird piece of architecture. I really wanted to focus it around architecture, but I felt like I could bring in other people that could focus on other things that they're specializing in, because some people are really good about food or some people are really good about this type of thing. My thing would be architecture or little weird secrets, right?
So you
Historical.
curate it.
It would be curated. So it could start off very small, like very few. I mean, even with the very few, it'd still be a lot of places. But basically how Pokemon Go now has Pokestops, right? I opened up the app and I was like, are you kidding me? There was things that I had never known about, before. So now I'm just like using it to like, okay, what's that? But the difference between Pokemon Go and something that's curated by real humans is that Pokemon Go is using like algorithms and some type of map thing that they had, an open source map. I'm not exactly sure 100% what it was, but it's generating all of these spots, which some of them aren't that good. It's like, here's some bad street art that I didn't want to see. I don't really care about that. I mean, this is a curated thing, and it actually teaches you a little bit about the history of Los Angeles and this place itself.
See, we could have used you. I actually, I opened up the app because I was like, I wonder if our mural is a fucking Pokestop. I'm like, how sick would that be? Like,
Is it? It should be.
That's been good advertising
sort
for
of.
people who...
It shows the old mural that was up on the wall.
See? Yeah.
Which was like
Italian corner.
Yeah, on the Italian corner.
I love that shit.
And
though.
it was like this like really awkwardly created silhouette of like this Italian man like wrapping his arms around this Italian woman in like the corner of this like dirty ass like wall. And I was like, we were so close to getting Poke famous.
Our place does look super dope on Grand Theft Auto 5 though. They got the front windows down so hard.
Oh, the actual gallery.
Yeah, I want to use it as like a profile picture for something because they made a little Santee alley, and then there's like you can drive around to the buildings. And one of the artists who used to be here, Brandon Alterman. I don't know if you remember him. Yeah, he sent me a picture and he was like, "Yo, look, you guys are in Grand Theft Auto 5." I was like, "What?" And I've looked for it so many times in the game. I haven't personally found it, but it's pretty dope. One thing that I do want to figure out, and it would be so sick if someone could figure out how to do this with Pokemon Go though, is to try, because did you see the story about the dude whose house used to be a church? There's actually like 4 different people whose houses used to be churches.
I looked at that. Yeah. So
and they turned it into a gym, so all these people were like sitting outside his house.
Well, yeah. So I guess all of these churches are gyms. Like or all of these gyms are actual churches. I don't know why it's like churches that have. It's like I think it's a conspiracy. I think that they're trying to get you to go into these churches, and then we're really like. It's not us that are playing the game. It's Pokemon that's playing us, and like we're part of their world.
Damn.
And it's like right.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, what's pretty crazy about the story?
You heard it first here.
The dude who one of the first guys that it happened to, he worked in technology, and he knew all this stuff about like geo mapping and like metadata, geodata, and like all that kind of shit. And so he knew exactly what was happening, and he's been kind of like introducing himself to the people who are there, and I've been like who've been coming up to his house, and I've been like, I wonder what, because they've been overwhelmed, like they haven't been able to keep up with the popularity, obviously. And there's been stories of like the Auschwitz Memorial in Germany, I think. People have been downloading the game even though it's not released yet in Europe. They're like doing some hacking thing, and there's like rattatas and shit like showing up on these mass graves, and they're like, you have to stop, like they have not been able to keep up. And I've been like, I wonder if, because what people are doing now is they're hosting events, like we're hosting a couple Pokemon Go events with this company called Hot Media. I guess we'll release this after they've released this podcast, after they've announced that show. But one thing people are doing is like at Dairy Queen and shit, they're like throwing out these things called lures, which make Pokemon come there, and it helps small businesses and stuff. And I wonder if they're ever going to leverage, because we're in phase 1 of this now. I wonder if they're ever going to leverage it to be like, you can turn your business into a gym for this much money.
I think they are. You can buy them now. And I think that they're starting to do that. Obviously, it's still wild, wild west, but definitely that's something that could happen. I would say what's really cool about it, the one cool thing about it, I think, is that you can use it as a tool to educate people about all of these different things. Like if you had, apparently they've been doing guides in like the national parks that were Pokemon Go guides of some sort.
That's awesome.
And so these people take you on tours and you get to do your Pokemon thing, but then you maybe are experiencing a national park. Unfortunately, you're looking at your phone, which is kind of silly. But I think that if there was a way to combine like a public art walk with the Pokemon Go thing to get kids, or I don't know. I mean, it's sad that it takes something like this to get people excited about public art or things like that, and maybe that's not the right solution, but I think that it's something, you know.
I think it's still cool as fuck. I'd like to see a photo walk, like a fucking Pokemon safari photo walk down Broadway and shit, like into different neighborhoods, and because I've seen already people organizing like Pokemon Go walks where people just get together and like hundreds of people get together and walk from one thing to another. It'd be awesome to have someone. I wonder what the first photo series that's actually dope is going to be
about
with Pokemon Go.
I can imagine it would be something like, you know, involving the Pokemon themselves in like interesting places or whatnot.
There have been a couple photos like that.
Yeah.
But
there were none in Jumbo's Clown Room.
You know, I actually, when I first opened that app, I was going to get Thai food and I was right in front of Jumbo's Clown Room. I was like, are you kidding me? This is a Pokestop.
Yeah, it is. Okay, first of all, it is a Pokestop. Second of all, I actually did check for Pokemon. They aren't there, so I'm not like holding out.
Well, they give you coins, they give you the thing, right?
Yeah, I popped a little button, and then like I got a bunch of Pokemon. My girl was so mad. It was her birthday, and I was like on my phone out, like looking for Pokemon. She literally looked at me. She's like, "Are you really looking for Pokemon right now?" I'm like, "Babe, I'm just checking."
I have avoided Pokemon Go like the fucking plague because I played it so hard with my cousins when I was growing up, and I just know I made a conscious decision to stop. I used to kind of like be in the gaming industry a little bit, and I made a conscious decision to say I'm not going to go. Like, this addiction is a legitimate addiction, so I've avoided Pokemon Go because I just don't want it to catch me.
I kind of just split the difference. I look for the most. I'm more in it for the picture than I am my points. And so I don't like go around walking every day looking for Pokemon. Like I'll wait until like I needed to catch one in the gallery. Did that. Went to Jumbo's Clown Room. Very disappointed.
Auschwitz Memorial.
Yeah, I just like, I want to go to ham on everything. And like in the middle of like 5 people twerking, I want to catch a little Jigglypuff and just have that image for me.
I get it. So you have a different, I see.
Right. I'm in it for the photo. I share the exact same mentality as you. I'm in it. It's not about the people.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, the subject, that being the Pokemon. So you and I relate. We should just start a collab.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I the only reason I even continue to open it up is to look at just the Pokestop, whatever they are. And I don't know how to battle things. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm like, oh, this is a cool memorial right over here.
You just lost
so
cool
many
fans. So many fans are like, fuck that.
Because I don't play Pokemon?
Yeah, because she doesn't know what she's talking about.
You know, I and this is funny because it has to do with podcasts and whatnot, and we talk Grand Theft Auto. I used to play Grand Theft Auto and I would only listen to the radio. Like I didn't really, play the game. I would literally play it just because the radio was so good in Grand Theft Auto.
Dude, I have a playlist on Spotify called Grand Theft Audio Hip Hop Station.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's like shit that they would play.
But the talk radio was so good.
Oh, that too.
That's all and I was like younger. I was like, what is it? You know, like AM rate talk radio.
They always sell the Grand Theft Auto soundtrack. And it's like a 12 CD compilation with everything they recorded.
Gotta get that talk radio.
That's which is awesome.
Yeah.
So has Standard Vision ever considered, have they floated the idea of augmented reality? Like has it ever entered the discussion? Obviously it's a bit of a departure from what you guys do normally, but you know, I'm sure you guys are looking forward to say, you know, what's next.
Well, we actually did do a little Pokemon spoof thing on our screen, and which I think is coming out this week. It's or it might be on right now. We did a little like secret Pokemon thing, so that's cool. And it's not really augmented reality, but it's like a play on some of the people that work there know a lot about Pokemon, and they did this like very intricate sort of thing that
It's a passion project.
well, it references one of the rare Pokemon, so we're making it seem like you're finding a rare Pokemon on the on the LED screen, and then you try to throw a ball at it and it disappears. So I'm not going to give away which rare Pokemon it is, maybe because I don't know which one it is.
Which screen?
The Marriott.
Oh, the Marriott.
Yeah,
okay.
so if you go to the Marriott, you might see a rare Pokemon.
You heard it here first.
But you can't catch it. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we don't know. We
Yeah,
might
who
be able
knows?
to catch
If you're
it.
lucky.
But yeah, I think the augmented reality thing is definitely something that we could potentially do. We just have been doing so many large scale projects that we don't know yet what that would entail. Like, I couldn't really give you an exact answer on that. But if we possibly collaborated with somebody that was interested in doing something like this, that could be an option for sure.
Have you guys? I mean, I don't know how close you are to. Do you guys have like an R&D department?
Yeah, like we have it is and it isn't. It's like a mix of, I think everybody within the content department has a specific R&D that they focus on. So that sort of creates a side R&D department, but not really no.
Because I was just curious about, I know hardware isn't necessarily your strength, but I mean, conceptually, I don't know if there's been new technology introduced or if there's things you're really excited to get your fingers on to like test out and try.
I think definitely we're looking at interactivity for sure and engaging the audience. I don't know about augmented reality at the moment, but definitely interactivity, and we have worked with some interactive stuff. So we're trying to see how that we can do that on the bigger screens. So that's something that we're working on. And but I think we're actually moving a little bit away from the hardware component and more into the software and the culture channel that I was talking about.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
Yeah.
There's a really cool AR project that was done by a very well-known artist from the Arts District called Damon Martin. He's a muralist. I actually wrote a piece for him for a magazine, but he painted that like Ai Weiwei thing on the side of that, like right next to the Tristan Eaton mural in the Arts District on that sushi, like the sushi spot on the corner across from Verst Kucher, however you say that. Yeah. So, and yeah, he had a little studio there, but he did this really interesting project with Hopscotch the Opera. Did you know what that was?
Yeah. Is it the one that did the wait, hold on, maybe not. I'm thinking not the Beethoven one.
No. So, well, I mean, it might have been. I don't know which opera it was. That the part that I never got to do it. It was like they sold the fuck out, but like sold out their tickets, not sold the fuck out. But they took these limos and they like teched them all out, and they would have people, because they were basically like, okay, so what is an opera that is about LA? And the same kind of thing you said, like there's this commute. Everyone was like cars. Mm-hmm. And so they had this performance that happened where you buy your ticket, you get in the limo and you drive around, and people would like hang out the windows and sing the opera, and they'd move you from one car to the next. And like the windows would lower and you'd look out one window, everything was blacked out. And
that's awesome.
And at SciArc, the school in the Arts District, that's where it started. And they drove in a circle and came back. They had this circular screen where you could stand in the middle and watch it from the screen, because they sold their tickets out like way in advance so no one could buy tickets. But one of the things they did that was interesting is they commissioned Damon Martin to curate like 8 different murals, and people would walk up to the murals with their phone, and it was like augmented reality stuff that would happen on their phone as a part of this hopscotch like experience that went around the city. That was really, really dope.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I think Standard Vision could do some really cool shit like that. Some AR, some VR stuff. Have you guys considered any virtual reality stuff?
Yeah, we're looking into it. I think that definitely we're trying to open up to other things that could be involving the community more. I think that it's all about the engagement. And I think that because it's really hard to get people to look at a giant screen when everyone's looking at their phones, we want to sort of figure out a way to engage the public and in ways that are more interactive and involved. And people can influence something. You know, I think that's really cool, is being able to influence something on a screen is a very powerful thing. So
one of the things I love about you is that you kind of have this, like you kind of like know your taste, and you're involved in many different things, right? So you'll be like doing music videos, you have your photos that you're taking, you work for Standard Vision and do all these really cool things in curation, as well as like helping produce different things. Do you have like some general kind of like mission? Like you say, you were like rubbing your hands together and like, oh, I know the goal. I know where I'm going with all this shit. Do you have some, like, you try to parlay one project to the next, building up to some cool thing in the future?
I'm just kind of like a sucker for doing things, for experiencing things and learning new things. And I pretty much just take most opportunities as long as I'm okay with the artistic, the level of artistry or the style, as long as it's on par with what I like. Because there's no reason to say no to things. I mean, I do so much in a day, and it's like, I know you guys do too. It's crazy, right? But I can't sleep. I can sleep, but I can't relax until I go to sleep. I have to be doing something up until the point where I'm sleeping. And if I don't, then I don't feel fulfilled. So it's like, this is how I am. This is who I am as a person. I don't know if I have necessarily a goal. I love surrounding myself with creative people and learning from them. And that's pretty much, I think, the most important thing for me is gaining new experiences.
I think you're living in a great time to be able to do multiple things. I mean, I know in some respects, millennials are oft criticized because they want to do so many things, and it was like, 100 years ago, it was like you graduate and you get into one field and you like stick to that field and you work your way up the ladder. And in some respects, there are characteristics of that trajectory that are essential, like to, gain your experience, to learn from your elders, to respect your elders, and to not think you're hot shit out of the gate. Because at some point you're going to stumble and hit your face hard. And you're not going to have an elder there to pick you up if you were throwing him under the bus. What I think is great now is, how many Instagram followers do you have, for example?
47,000.
You have the opportunity to go to work and at any point in time, publish your work. You can go to Standard Vision and at any point while you are there, publish your personal work to 40,000 people all at once. And that type of coverage, that type of spread, it was completely unprecedented, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
You had to pay a lot of money for that.
Yeah, like, let's not forget that. I mean, Facebook, Twitter were really hitting their stride in like 2007. YouTube was hitting its stride in like 2007. Facebook didn't even know Instagram was ready to get purchased because it didn't exist until like 2012 or something. And so you're in a position now where you're able to really pivot yourself as an artist, and a strong one at that, at any time during the day, and then repivot yourself to start beginning to create content for screens that are larger than life, larger than skyscrapers. And that's kind of a unique opportunity because the window for communication has gotten wider, the bandwidth has gotten wider, the communication has gotten faster. Everything that you can do 2 to 3 times as fast. Therefore, you're able to multitask at, optimized levels that I think people hadn't seen before.
Yeah. So I feel very lucky to be able to do the things that I do not take it for granted every day. I feel very lucky. And I think also what you said is interesting and important because there's a lot of people that still have very old school ways of thinking. And there are, institutions that are still very old school about how they accept things, and how they, like galleries that are very like, this is how you have to be. But then it's like, now there's people that are doing it themselves, and this is one of those things. It's like, I was never one to play by the rules. I went to school and I studied literature and I minored in film, and I probably should have gone to film school, I guess, or photography school. And then somewhere along the line, I would have used that as a way to get into something, because that's what you do. Like, you go to college and then your college helps you. You're networking in college. They help you get to places, and you immediately can go to a gallery, or you can be in a film, working on a film immediately out of the gate. But I never wanted to do it that way. I never felt like I was part of any one scene specifically. Like, I could never be in the film world 100% because I can't stand it. I love movies, but I cannot stand that, and same with the art scene, and same with the music scene. It's like, I need to be surrounded by these things, but I cannot be immersed in that. I need to be able to talk to just about anybody. I can't have my clique and be so shut out from the other worlds, Yeah. And I think that that's important. Being able to communicate with just about anybody from any background is very important. And also finding your own ways of doing something. Like, you know, you don't have to pay people to promote yourself or do this. You can just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually those people will come to you, because we live in an age that we could do that. And that's really awesome. And I think anybody's trying to do art should just stick to what they're doing, and, you know, eventually things will happen.
Find what that is. Do these opportunities come to you, like, exclusively now, or are you ever seeking them out? Obviously you come up with your own ideas, but like, do you ever hit up people and be like, yo, do you have anything I can do? Or are they just coming to you now?
Well, for the most part, they're really just coming to me. I mean, I think that, yeah, because I already have my job, my 9 to 5, and then like I do my photography, which is what I'm doing. And if anything, I might seek out, you know, little like galleries or things here and there, but I haven't been doing that much. Mostly people just end up coming to me for that, and then DPing on the side, people come to me for that, and I have to turn some people down, but mostly I do it. But yeah, I don't really, I mean, and not that many people come to me that much, you know, it's not like every day there's like 5 people. It's like, you know, it's nice.
Enough to fill your time.
Enough to fill my time. So it is nice because I only choose what I really want to do. And
did you, when did that start happening, that enough people started hitting you? Like, when did you, do you remember the shift when you were like, okay, my Instagram is taking the fuck off now, and now I have an image online that people want to hire?
I don't know. I think it was probably like within the last year or so, because I did I went from like 2,000 followers to like 20,000 followers.
How did that happen?
Yeah, crazy. I don't know. I was in Death Valley with no cell phone service for 4 days, or like very minimal. And I came back from Death Valley and I had 23,000 followers, and I was like, what is going on? I think one of the other Instagrammers like suggested me as a suggested user on the Instagram page. And then that caused this crazy thing to happen instantly. But that didn't make anything else happen instantly. Like, it took time for me to get even more, and then more recognition, and then certain galleries, you know, wanted to do things and whatnot. And
do you know Brandon Munoz Monk, the guy who does he built that like crazy dripping skate ramp from our ceiling for Dude Monsters? He built the pyramid for the show we did with Human.
I mean, I know the skate ramp. It was cool. Yeah.
So the same thing happened to him. He got featured as like a suggested user, and his furniture company took the fuck off. It was like one day he was trying to pick up as many projects as he could. The next day he could not fulfill all of the orders that came to him from that moment on. That happened to me on YouTube too. That's how my kind of YouTube
That's
career
amazing.
started.
Well, I think I would say that with furniture and even like shoe design and stuff, those are more commercially, like, you know, it's not as much art. So with art, it's harder to, you know, it doesn't, like, the numbers don't,
there's not a product for
yeah,
your photos.
I mean, it's really, I mean, there's a product if you want to buy the print, but in the end, I still have a 9 to 5 job. That's basically most of my income, or these little random, you know, freelance gigs here and there. I do some commercial architecture photography on the side too, which is kind of, that's like my favorite thing that I do. Hopefully I'll do more and more of that, but that's so sporadic. Like I photograph buildings for people.
So they hit you up and they're like, hey, I really like the way that you photograph architecture. I want you to just come shoot my new building that I just designed.
Yeah, well, there's a company called Shilden that does these terracotta screens. They did the UCLA Music Center. I don't know if you...
Oh, cool, yeah.
But anyways, so they hire me like periodically to shoot their buildings, and they're all over. Like, I think I'm going to New York next month to shoot some of their buildings. Yeah.
If that took off like hardcore, would you quit at Standard Vision?
I might. I would like to do something like part-time there, part-time that. Maybe I would be more part-time, but I will always probably have Standard Vision in my heart, and, you know, I can figure out any way to help, and if definitely there's need for me.
So it fits into your grand vision.
I think,
That's
yeah.
what you're saying.
But yeah, no, I think I love the architecture photography. It's my favorite thing to do. It's so nice, and it's so easy. It comes so easy, much more than anything else that I do. So for somebody to ask me to do that, it's great, especially if it's like nice modern architecture that is, you know.
Yeah. So how do you decide to say yes or no to a project? Just like a feeling in your gut and your calendar?
Yeah, both of those things, yeah.
Like, give some examples of something that, I guess, don't give examples of things you've said no to, but like.
Well, I can give you an example of like, I almost did a Juicy J music video.
What? You said no to that?
What?
I didn't direct it. I almost DP'd it. And it was a very hilarious situation. And I actually almost went through with it, but the director, he's a really sweet guy. It was just like the scheduling happened in such a way where these guys were not available until the day that I had left on my Arizona trip to go do my Arizona road trip thing. And I got a call and they're like, oh, we want to shoot in Vegas tomorrow. And I'm like, well,
I don't have time for you, Juicy.
But
you didn't hit up Patrick and be like, yo, Juicy J video on the...
Come on, man.
Sinzi says no to ratchet videos. Patrick Nissum can't.
I can't. Look me up on WorldStar. If you want to find my dark, dirty past, look me up on WorldStar.
Yeah.
Me too, actually.
I guess.
Pray for me.
I guess, well, here's the thing is like the part of it was like me DPing a music video that was going to be very raunchy. And it's, you know, my friend Kaylee, who I think you know, she was going to do art department and she totally was like, no, I can't do this because of the way that women are portrayed in this music video.
So you do have a taste like within your heart that like this doesn't fit.
You got a code of ethics.
I was kind of like ready to do it though, just because I was like,
you're like, I don't think you understand. I love rap videos.
Yeah,
So whether you're in or you're out.
There is a part of me, a small part of me that was like, man, I kind of would. But I think in the end, the level of disorganization within the video itself and the needs that they had for what they wanted within the budget would have been a little bit impossible for me to execute as the kind of DP that I am, because I'm more focused around framing and whatever, and this guy just wanted to like put a beauty light on everything, and I was just like, you know what, if I were to do this, I want, you know, to me that was more concerning than the naked girls, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
It was the fact that I couldn't light the things the way that I would want to light it, and I wouldn't have time to light it in the way that I would want to light it. So
you're
to me,
resurfacing a lot of bad rap video memories for me. Like that was essentially like Jacob had this like illustrious like solo YouTube career where he was able to be his own like judge, jury, and execution. Like,
oh, dude, that was my shit's terrible.
Wait,
I've
you're
hidden
a
everything
rapper?
I could. No, YouTube videos. I've hidden everything that I can, but I'm sure you can still find shit out there.
Yeah, you could also catch him ghost riding the whip and having his car stolen. I don't know if you saw that video. Did you see that video?
Wait.
So there's a video.
Let's hear the IMDb.
That was you?
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Well, I just saw some video of some guy and he was ghost riding the whip, and then it's.
What did the whip look like?
Was it like
define this whip?
I don't remember. It was like a white dude.
Was it a
in a
scrape?
suburban
Was it like
area.
a blue?
In a suburban area? Okay, yeah. Was it
you? Did you post it? Because I think I just. It was on Facebook.
Yeah, I think.
Did you watch it?
I like partially, maybe.
And then he gets his car stolen?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Is that you?
Did you see him get his car stolen?
No.
Okay, well he does in that video.
And is that you?
And he is Jacob.
Oh, I'm gonna go back and look at it.
Yeah, you gotta look at it.
That was the
Wait,
first
what?
famous thing that ever happened to me. Not to
way.
definitely to steal Patrick's shine right now in this
That's fine, I
conversation
don't have
because I'm
any
so proud of this. It was so crazy and intentional. This is the first time actually ever that I've talked about this publicly. So you hear it here first because we wanted everyone to think it was real, and obviously it was fake, but it was my homie. We were like, wouldn't it be awesome if a white dude was ghostwriting a car in a suburban neighborhood and a black guy stole it? And it was like right when all like the Ghost Ride the Whip shit was happening, and we went to my friend's neighborhood, the black dude, and everyone, that's so funny because the comments are so racist. They're like, no, black guy would never be in that neighborhood. And I'm like, it's where his house was. I lived in this shitty neighborhood. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and the shitty car was his.
And
like
was
the neighborhood
car.
that was super nice was not Jacob's.
Yeah, and everyone's like, no, that's the other thing they say. No, fake, no one would ever steal that car.
Which is a fact because that
part's
video
actually
was
true.
fake.
Yeah, and so that part's actually true. And so I'm just like ghost riding the whip, and then we made it. We our intention was get it published somewhere. There's a website called thatvideosite.com, and it was like right before you made it onto the homepage of Break. If you made it onto thatvideosite.com, it had the potential to go viral back in the day. Like this was before YouTube existed.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
it was crazy. And so we made this video, we put it up. I remember I edited this version. It fucking sucked. And my homie was like, let me have my crack at this. And he edited a new version. It was way better. That's the one that exists now. And then you got $200 if it got picked up on break.com. And some guy stole it and uploaded it. And my friend got pissed off and he was like, dude, there goes our $200. And I was like, much more will come of this. Don't worry about that $200.
Yeah.
And it went super viral. It's got millions of hits on all these different places.
Do you get paid?
We ended up selling the rights for it for 2 years to CBS for some TV show that they had. Oh my God. And we got like a few $1,000s, but that was it. They were like, we've been digging, trying to find who you are for months and months.
I can't believe that this video came up on my feed 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And this is you. I'm having like a weird deja vu.
It was crazy
thing.
for me to see it. I hadn't seen it for so long, and I'm ignorant as fuck in this video. It's like it is the most
hilarious
ratchet shit, you can say no to ratchet videos. Jacob Patterson also
Well, I
can.
stopped watching it after like 10 seconds because I was like, I
It's
don't know.
annoying. It's annoying.
You're like,
It's
fuck
Like
this
scroll
guy.
down and look at more cats.
It's so funny that Julian tidbit about that video. He's 6'9" or 6'10", I think. That's how tall he is. And he could not. We had to shoot it so many times because he couldn't like run and get in the car and hit the gas because he was too big to do it. We had to shoot it so many times. We ran over this dude's lawn. It was crazy. Anyway, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, Jacob used to be a little ratchet rat.
I was definitely.
Yeah,
ratchet.
what was were you Wigga Trigger?
Wigga Trigger TV.
That's right.
The old people from back in the day.
These is all true. This is all true.
My MySpace profile, you can probably still find it, was myspace.com.
We'll post some links.
Mactown. Sacktown is what we call Sacramento. So Mactown, M-A-C, maybe K, T-O-W-N, Wigga. MySpace.com/Mactown.
Yeah. So we both have a ratchet past that we just
What videos did you shoot?
terms with. I shot a lot of Roscoe Dash videos. Roscoe Dash was like, he was. Let me be on the record to say he's a good dude, but I will say, and I shot for other rappers, and as a whole, rap videos are the least fun to shoot because you never, like you said, like you were saying, you want to really focus on the framing, right? And you want to really ensure that the image is to your liking, that you're able to put the careful care into that. They ain't having none of that. And not only not only that, I had a rapper, it was not Roscoe Dash for the record. We had a rapper who showed up with like, I think it was like a $10,000 or $20,000 jacket. And he had spent $2,000 in a music video. And we couldn't get the space for an extra day that we needed. We needed that time. And we couldn't get it because he spent all the money on the jacket. And I remember, I remember that he showed up late. He showed up about 2 hours late. So we already didn't have enough time. Then he showed up 2 hours late. And then we were only allowed to have like 5 people at this studio. Like 30 people roll through. And it's a nightmare. I actually had this exact same conversation with someone who I shoot with without naming companies. And he called me a week later and he's like, I have to tell you, you are so right about these rap videos, man, because I just got off of one and it was a fucking nightmare. And I'm not going to give a blanket statement for all rappers because I'm sure that not only, you look at Flying Lotus, he's not, I don't even know, would you classify him as a rapper? He's a producer. He's more of a producer. But nonetheless, his videos are breathtaking.
Yeah, they are.
And like there are artists out there, whether they're rap, country, who just get it. And like they'll show up, they'll be on time. From my personal experience and from my peers who have also worked with rappers, I spent a lot of time in Atlanta. Just like find an electronic music producer to make music videos for it, because chances are they don't even want to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's great.
Or Busta Rhymes.
Yeah. Have you done any music videos where the artist isn't in front of the camera and they're just like, you know what, like you just do you?
You do really well at that. Alex LeGalvin, I know you know him, the photographer. He's done a couple, and with the artist like not present at all, and they're awesome. You should do some stuff like that.
I think I could do. I would potentially like to do that. Yeah, I think for me, it's like I try to work with people that are actually good in front of the camera, so that it's like I need Bjork, basically. Like, give me Bjork, and that's easy, right? Yeah. It's like just like, okay, here, I'm gonna film you now. Do something.
Yeah.
But I do gravitate towards charismatic people who are like, I think the longest, the furthest I've gone away from doing like a purely performance video was I did this MED video. He's like what is he? MED is like a rapper. He's from he was on Stone's Throw. He's great. Yeah. Sick. So we did like a 70s heist film type thing, and he's acting in it, but also rapping in it. But there's a whole storyline happening, which is pretty cool. So it's not all him performing. Like
the Spike Jonze Beastie Boys video.
Yes, exactly. That's except there's like a sci-fi element also to it, and it's like
plot twist.
Yeah, there's a plot twist. So it's fun.
How did you get the call for that?
My friend Rohan recommended me to, because he used to shoot like a lot of their background or BTS videos and stuff. So
cool. So how do you? That's one last thing I kind of want to get to because I'm getting hungry. I want to go eat. But how do you transition, like parlay one opportunity to the next? Because it seemed like you're really good at making. Like we try as hard as we can to make sure that every project we do is the beginning. Instead of like the end of that project, it's the beginning of some new thing that, or maybe the beginning of many new things that we could work with. Like when we finished Break Bread, that was like, okay, we're going to work with Standard Vision again because we really want to. And then we did for Take Me Home LA, which we'll have to get back to probably at another time because we probably don't have time to talk about it on this podcast. We wanted to work with Cirque du Soleil again. So we actually ended up going to Vegas and getting to pitch them a couple projects. And that door is still open for us to continue to pitch them projects. We try to always make sure that we can turn our shit into something else in the future.
Yeah.
You do a really good job at that. Do you have a strategy for it? Like if you had to tell your 20-year-old self how to do this as well as you can do it now, what would you kind of tell them?
I feel like I'm still doing the same things as I was when I was 20.
That's good.
But I don't know. I just want to do everything that I do. It has to be perfect. It has to be the best. And it obviously with film, it's never like that because there's so many variables, right? But I still strive. If you ask me to do something for you, I'm going to try and make it the best thing it could possibly be so that if you my product is something that you'd want to come back to basically. And and oftentimes it's me that has to be like, no, I don't want to work with you again because that was annoying. But there are people that I continue to work with and I really like to, it's like I have a lot of acquaintances and friends, but I only have very few close friends and people that I trust and people that I like to open up to. And I consider that to be also like similar in my work style. Like I only mess with people that I really have like a one-on-one eye-to-eye situation with and I respect them and they respect me and I think it's all about like you guys. Yeah, you guys definitely. So it's all about mutual respect, I think.
So you're just kind of like trying to make sure that you are one of the like a valuable part of that project so that people are like, she was very valuable. I want to bring her back and bring back that value.
And that I got something out of it. Like, is this something I could use for my reel? Is this something I'm proud about? Is this something I could share with people? Those are all important things.
Your master plan.
My master plan.
Yeah, I know there was just one last point before we close it out here. And off your point, there was a cinematographer who was ASC member who was working at Florida State where I went to college for film school. And I'm paraphrasing it a little bit, but he basically boiled it down to, if you're not in love with the shot, don't record it. Mm-hmm. And to a certain extent, it has certainly helped me. It's funny because it was offhand knowledge. I had people who ended up getting him and I had someone else, but that was one thing that unanimously they were all like this point, like he really drove this home and it was like, really important. And when I shoot, I can tell how much better it's made me because like set can be exhausting. Like you can spend, especially if there's no union rules, which oftentimes like in more of the kind of like run and gun, I'm getting hired for this stuff just every once in a while type of work. It usually is not union, at least for me. And what I've realized is like I'm 9 hours deep into a set and like I'm tired and like we had to kill the AC because, we need sound for this for some reason. And if I'm looking at a shot, I don't love it. I have that play in my head and I know I can buy myself at least 10 more minutes to try to make it that much better. Because chances are, like, let me promise you, I've recorded shit that I don't love over the past like 2 years. But
of course, yeah.
I have become significantly more conscientious of those moments when they occur. And similar to what you're saying, like you kind of have one shot for this product and you don't want to just like cut a sexy reel together and like hide all your full work. You know what I mean? You want to really be able to say, here's my reel, but like, take a gander, like audit my work and see if you can find any failures in it. And the older I've gotten, the more mature I've gotten, the more I realize how important it is to approach the game in that respect and know that every shot counts.
It does. And I think the more you do these things, the more you'll figure out how to garner respect from everybody in the crew and be like, okay, no, this is important. This image is important. And working with people that understand that the image is important and that, because don't take the shot. I mean, I shoot on film. I would never take the photo if it's not a good photo. I only have 12 photos in a roll. I can't just like snap, and you take one of them. So I think it's for everything. I mean, everything that you do in life, it should be something that you're proud of. And that's a
good point that you're shooting on film now. So every time you pull the trigger, it costs you money.
Yeah.
That's an important way to learn about photography as well. So there's a lot of young people that will surely be listening to this podcast. So any other valuable things that they can kind of pull out of this treasure trove of this podcast that you could share with them? Like, what was the name of that map app thing you were talking about that you can find neighborhoods through?
That's Mapping LA. That's like LA Times Mapping LA. If you look it up, it basically gives you like maps of all the neighborhoods in Los Angeles, which is pretty cool. But I think in terms of like something to take away, I think that if you're a photographer, I would try learning to shoot on film, because it limits you, and also limit yourself in what you can do. Like even shoot with an iPhone. Start out with an iPhone, because you can only do so many things with an iPhone, and it allows you to be creative.
A lot of photographers say start with the prime lens too.
Prime lens, yeah.
Like, do not allow yourself the opportunity to zoom.
Yes. With iPhone, of course, you can zoom, but it still strips away all of the technical things that you might get a little bit confused by or whatever, or get caught up with. I think that if I learned photography from a college, going to university for it perspective, then I probably wouldn't take the same photos that I'm taking now. I think that they might be a little bit different. I think that the way that I learned to take photos is reflected in the photos that I take. It's not 100% technical. It's not, I have grown more and more technical, but I haven't let the technical things get in the way. With my filmmaking, I've been stuck many times because I'm bound by the technical aspects, because with film, it's a lot harder to make it look good if you don't understand the technical aspects of film. Like, so many people know how to do it, and so many people can make good stuff out there, that if you're doing stuff that looks like film school, people can tell right away, right? And it doesn't fly anymore. It's not the 60s. We're not making like new wave films. We need to make stuff that looks good. Unless you're doing art in film, you know what I'm saying?
Or just shoot on a VHS camcorder, like our homie Tyler Ross, who shoots all this crazy stuff for a very well-known rapper. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about.
No, sir.
But in general, I think that, you know, even with my film camera, you can't tell it's film. Half the time people don't know it's film, but I just do it for my own personal reasons. And I think that, I think that everybody learns differently, and you have to find your own way of learning how to do something. Don't go by the rules just because they're there.
So what about college? Was it valuable? Would you do it again if you were growing up now?
I loved college. I studied literature. Probably never talk about that. Nope.
Does it add anything to your career?
Oh yeah, of course. I think literature was important because it taught me a lot about the world and how to analyze things, and I just enjoyed it. And I think
drop some of your favorite books on us that people can read.
I love mystery novels about Los Angeles. I know, right? I'm not going to talk to you about theory. I love James Ellroy. He's one of my favorite authors.
That went in a much more cultured direction than I expected.
I won't talk about Derrida to you because I just don't want to. But no, I do love James Ellroy.
Cool.
I highly recommend, because it's LA and that's great.
Yeah, I like to take like Hemingway books or Bukowski. Do you like Bukowski? Bukowski's very
I could do Bukowski,
Okay. And I feel like it's when I need to turn off from like how crazy, like today, for example, how crazy my day has been. I need to turn off, but I don't want to ingest something without value. That's when literature is great, because I'm not in a literary field, so I can just read something that's really good, but I'm not working at all, but it's still adding value.
You're entering another world. I would say my favorite summer book is what is the artist? His name is, the book is called In Watermelon Sugar, and it's this like, I forget the name of the author, but it's this amazing, he was one of the beat writers, Richard Brodigan. And it's like the best book to read if you're sitting by the pool and you want to just get tripped out and just like read something that doesn't really make sense, but it's really, really, really beautiful.
Cool.
Read In Watermelon Sugar.
You're going to be my new person that I text when I finish a book and I need a new one.
Okay, cool.
100%. I'll
be
that.
There.
So, Sinzi, where can people find you?
My Instagram is Casual Time Travel. And I'm on Facebook if you search my whole long name. And then my whole long name is
Good
also
luck trying to spell it.
My website. But I think the best thing for you is Casual Time Travel.
And do you have a website?
It's my whole name, sinzianavelicescu.com.
Good luck, guys. Just give up on that one.
All right, we'll post the
Instagram
damn link.
Post the link.
We do the hard work. We pronounce the last names for you.
And then standardvision.com is where you can find some of these other projects.
Is where you can find all of the Standard Vision.
And you guys have some really cool shit coming out, so people should definitely keep an eye there, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that stuff. We'll talk about that on another podcast in a future day.
Sinzi, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So that was our podcast with Sinzi. Thank you very much for listening. I mentioned last week that we were going to do a live podcast with 3 people that we hadn't met that we got invited to do. We did that panel, but it did not go how we expected it to go. It was very, very interesting. If for no other reason, we can't publish it because our mic kept turning off, but there are many other reasons why we will probably not be publishing that. If you really, really want to hear it, we have a recording. Hit us up. We'll email it to you. You can get a laugh. It was a fun time. I don't know. Maybe we'll record it. We'll publish it somewhere just for fun as a secret. I don't know. Anyway, we're uploading all this stuff this week to YouTube and SoundCloud. So if you have friends that you want to share it with that don't have iPhones, you'll be able to. We're going to try to get it on Google Play and wherever else we can. This in the next few days. We have a lot of content to upload, so just be patient with us, please. The good thing about this one is we got the show notes done before we're publishing, so you can look up all the different artists that Sinzi mentioned. And I strongly encourage you to do so. I also encourage you to follow Sinzi on Instagram. It's at Casual Time Travel. Follow us on Instagram. If you don't, I don't know how you would have even found us, but we're at Think Tank DTLA. And come to our event on Saturday and Sunday, Comic Arts LA, and just go to comicartsla.com to find out more about that. And if you haven't rated us or left us a review yet, please do it. Actually does help, even though it doesn't seem like it does. All right, thanks. 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 All right, thanks.